of our economic dialogue series. This is Metro TV, and this is a TV station, so you would expect some of these things. Technical hitches, we very much apologize for you not hearing us the very first time. But I have the singular honor to welcome you to the first of our series, and we promise this is going to be the best of the economic series that you can find in the country. Today, we talk about the falling Ghana cedi. Do you know that from the very 1st of January up until now, the cedi has lost its value by about some 60%? Do you know that the price of Ghana cement is hitting about 100 Ghana cedis? Well, these and many other things are what we are going to talk about this morning. We have gathered here experts from industry, experts from the academics, and wherever that you can think of. This morning, they are coming to digest the issues for us, and what we are particularly looking at is how we can help the cedi to take back its value, how we can help the cedi to appreciate in value. You want to stick and stay with us, we'll be looking at a lot of other issues. Macroeconomic stability, would go into the micro, would go into the monetary policy, the basis points that are raised by the Bank of Ghana, how it is able to help the interest rates come down, how it is able to control the inflation rate, and so on and so forth. This morning promises to be a very exciting one. My name is Kwesi Afriyie, and I am your moderator for the morning. You want to stick and stay with us? We will be right back.
For years, they have made millions from your money and giving you coins. They make you believe it's a good deal. They have offered you security for your money and make it look like they're doing you a favor. You are doing them a favor. Because you can have security and make so much more on your money at the same time. That is what the Daylex Swift is offering over 100,000 customers today. Wake up.
Behind welcome.
The studio where I have my guests seated, my audience seated. Good morning to you, everyone. Oh, I'm expecting a very resounding response. Good morning to you once again. I'm sure you're happy to be here, of course. Someone would say we are in an economic downturn. And the question we're asking everybody, and the question we're asking our panelists who are going to be seated here this morning is that, how do we turn around? Or where do we turn to as an economy? I'm sure you have answers for us this morning, don't we? Oh, we do have answers for this morning. I'm sure that we are going to be providing some practical answers to the government, to the stakeholders of the economy. Let me welcome you if you are watching us online as well. Those who are live with us on Zoom, those who are live with us on Facebook, and those who are live with us on DSTV. We are live on DSTV channel 277. We are live on our Facebook page, Metro TV Live. We are, of course, live on Good Morning Ghana Live as well. So you can join us everywhere. Put up your comments if you have any, your questions, if you have any, and of course, we'll throw them up to our panelists for the morning. We'll engage them here in the studio, and we'll engage you online as well. Be part of us. We officially begin the program in the name of the Almighty God, and so with a welcoming applause, let's welcome Winston Taki to lead us in prayer. Please welcome him.
All seated, may I humbly ask that we close our eyes as we take the opening prayer. Our Lord and Master Jesus, we thank you this morning for this great privilege to have this discourse before you this morning. We pray for sound wisdom. We pray for sound understanding. We pray the Lord imbibe us with the Spirit that as we have this conversation for the sake of national development, we ask that Lord let grace abound for all our speakers, both online, those who are contributing to the discussion. We ask that you lead us towards this nation development. We understand that these kinds of conversation is what we need in times as this. Lord, we can't do this without you. Therefore, we come and call upon you to grace this occasion. These and many other things we ask in the name of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, Winston Taki. I'm sure you would want to do some round of applause for him for leading us in the prayer this morning. So, Metro TV has a leader. We have a chairman of our board who is the leader and the visionary of all of this that we are doing for you. And I've promised you that in the course of time, we'll be bringing you a series of our economic dialogue series. And we're going to look into different segments of the economy. Today, it is about the fallen city. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome the chairman of Ignite Media, Dr. Randy Abbey. Thank you very much. Oh, please, you can come here. Thank you very much, Doc. How are you? I am very well.
Chairman, and our distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the board and management of Ignite Media, I'd like to warmly invite you this morning for this conversation. Economic dialogue series. This is the first of its kind. We intend to have it every quarter and to look at the critical areas of our economy and try to have a very decent conversation around it, try to diagnose the problem, and look at concrete solutions from key stakeholders, solutions that we can put together and also provide as our contribution to ensuring that we're able to aggregate a lot more well-researched, well-reasoned, and of course, practical solutions to the problems of the economy of this country. I mean, when the economy bites, it bites everybody, irrespective of your age, gender, political affiliation, or religion. I'm sure that since last week, almost everybody here has either bought fuel or paid a transport fare. And it's biting. It doesn't matter who you are, what your view is, what you look like, what you like and what you don't like. And if the economy prospers, it also benefits all of us. And so as a media establishment, we believe that we also ought to use our platforms to engender these kinds of conversations. And not just a conversation. They say that the country is virtually a large talk shop. We want to go beyond that. And that is why we have you distinguished personalities who have been carefully selected from all spheres of our industry to come in here and share the experiences that you have, the solutions that you believe, if put in place, would actually help us out. And for the first one, we're looking at the city. And what a coincidence. It appears that the city is taking a battering of its existence. And I believe that for a lot of people, they say that when we get the city right, everything else will fall in place. Because all the things that make the city right are exactly the things that we need to focus on to make our economy right. And that is why it is the first of the series. And so, we welcome you once again. I've said that it's going to be quarterly business. I am so excited that even with within a short space of time, we've been able to get all of you to agree to be here to have this conversation and, of course, try and look at solutions for our dear country. So I thank you once again. I'm going to take a back seat and listen and, of course, take notes and also make sure that all our viewers, in fact, our audience, will be able to also participate in this. And I'm sure that will provide them the opportunity to also send in their questions and suggestions. So as we go on, it will be very interactive. Our viewers would also be able to send us what they also think ought to be done, or if they have questions or they need clarifications, those opportunities will also be provided. So thank you. And Mr. Chairman, we are in your able and capable hands. I am sure that we'll have a very, very, very fruitful conversation, and Ghana will be a much better place. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Randy. Oh, you want to do a better round of applause for? I introduced to you early on that he is the visionary of this program, which has come to stay with Metro TV, and not just Metro TV, Ignite Media. He is a board chair of Ignite Media. Please, another round of applause for Dr. Randy Abbey. So we are setting the tone now, and we'll be getting seated very soon to begin the discussions right away. But we need to know who is going to talk to us and what exactly they are made up of. I remember that when we had a meeting looking at a selection of the panelists, there were lots of back and forth. Who is this? Who is what? But we said we needed practical solutions to the challenges of the economy. And that makes up the kind of panelists that we have here today. And so I would allow Mrs. Sandra Ofosu Dewonu to introduce to us our speakers for the day. Please acknowledge Sandra for me.
And as organizers of this event were thinking of who to be the chairman and guest speakers, we realized that it is quite critical, the topic, the Ghana city. And so the selection of the chairman and the speakers was a bit rigorous. You would agree with me at the end of the introduction that we did a good job. To start with, there's going to be a profile read of the chairman in the person of Dr. Sam Ankra. It will be rolled from the back office. Dr. Sam Ankra. Dr. Sam Ankra is an investment banker in global business. Dr. Sam Ankra is an investment banker, a global business strategist and development economist with more than 20 years successful experience guiding fiscal, strategic, and operational leadership and the principal partner of AI. As and when he comes up to give his acceptance speech, you would appreciate our choice of chairman for today. We would attempt to see the profiles of other guest speakers and see if that one or the others would play. Next is Dr. Ejapoma Jekedako as a guest speaker.
Right, so whilst we prepare to play the profiles of each of our guest speakers this morning, We want to go on a quick break. When we are back, we'll have our chairman speak and we'll have the profiles played. Then we can set the ball rolling. Please take and stay with us.
For years, they have made millions from your money and giving you coins. They make you believe it's a good deal. They have offered you security for your money and make it look like they're doing you a favor. You are doing them a favor. Because you can have security and make so much more on your money at the same time. That is what the Daylex Swift is offering over 100,000 customers today. Wake up.
Deadline for the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals target for sanitation. Progress made, but a lot more yet to be achieved.
I cannot, deceive myself to say that it is all well with us in this municipality. We have serious challenge.
We have broken down boreholes and the pipes are not flowing. No, you see them standing. Solid waste and liquid waste management is also a very big problem to us.
Across all 261 districts of the country, the push is on to reach the target.
Almost every community in Asokore Mampo has a dumping site.
There is a compost site being constructed in the municipality by Zumlaya.
This year's National District Awards is focused on water, sanitation and hygiene.
The focus of the award by the Millennium Excellence Foundation is very, very appreciated.
The essence is that the district must be recognized. They must be shown to the public what they've been able to accomplish.
The National District Awards comes off on the 19th of November 2022 at the Great Hall King Westie in Kumasi. Theme: Accelerating National Development Through Excellence in Local Governance.
The district league table is a laudable idea.
I wish they could do it even 3-4 times a year.
Partners: Millennium Excellence Foundation, National Development Planning Commission and UNICEF. Under the auspices of His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Osei II, Asantehene, life patron of Millennium Excellence Foundation.
Right, so you welcome back from the break. And I can promise you that all is set now right here in the studio. So if you're watching us online, kindly do relax. If you're watching us on our DSTV channel or on your traditional TV, please do relax as well. And let's get the ball rolling. We'll come back to the profiles of our guests who are seated here this morning. And I come back to you, Mrs. Sandra.
Thank you very much, Akwesi. So we'll go straight to the chairman, Dr. Sam Ankra. Ankra is an investment banker, a global business strategist and development economist with more than 20 years successful experience in providing fiscal, strategic and operational leadership in uniquely challenging situations. He is the Chief Executive Officer and the Principal Partner of AIG Ghana and AIG International Switzerland. Dr. Sam Ankra is a Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of Chartered Economists, Board Chair, Trade and Investment International Chamber of Commerce, Ghana, Board Chairman of Ngoya DC Ghana Limited, the only Tier 4 data center in Sub-Saharan Africa. Dr. Ankra has proven track record in management, finance and economics, investment banking, leasing, factoring, forfeiting oil and gas, private pension management, and international trade. He was educated in the United Kingdom with a degree in statistics and management from University of London, holds an MBA in finance and management and a Leadership Advantage Program certificate from the Cranfield School of Management UK, an MSc in Economics, Social Science and PhD in Philosophy and Social Science, all from the Pan American University of Science and Medicines. Dr. Ankra has again completed and obtained an MSc Economics and PhD in Finance from Universidad Empresarial do Costa Rica. Believe you me, that was just a gist of the profile of Dr. Sam Ankra. Next is one of our speakers, our female speakers for today, Dr. Ejapoma Jekedako. Dr. Ejapoma Jekedako is currently a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Prior to her joining the University of Ghana Business School, she worked with Durham Business School UK as a teaching fellow for 3 years, lecturing in various courses. She has published in the University of Peking Press and has submitted a number of papers for publication. She is also a co-researcher on a collaborative research with the World Trade Institute, University of Geneva and Wits University, South Africa. Ejapoma Jekedako has a PhD in Financial and Development Economics from the University of Nottingham, UK, MSc Economics and Financial Economics from the University of Nottingham, UK, and BA Economics with Geography from the University of Ghana. She has been affiliated with the Leverhulme Center for Research on Globalization and Economic Policy and the Chinese Economic Association, and is also a reviewer in Thunderbird International Business Review. Her research interest is in the area of financial and development economics. I was in the same class with Dr. Ejapome's younger brother, Kweju, so I know her personally. She's very good. Next, our guest speaker, Mr. Edward Kariwe.
Edward Kariwe is the trade union leader who is currently leading the General Agricultural Workers Union of the TUC. Comrade Kariwe is an organizer, negotiator, and a grassroots mobilizer. He has for several years been a member of the Tripartite Technical Subcommittee on Daily Minimum Wage and the Public Sector Joint Standing Negotiating Committee. He has been involved in several policy discussions on the implications of the Economic Partnership Agreement, World Trade Organization, World Bank, the International Monetary Fund for Africa's development, particularly Ghana. He has also been part of Ghana's trade experts team that worked at the ECOWAS level on the EPA between the European Union and Africa, Caribbean and Pacific countries. In recent times, Comrade Karawe has been critically concerned about government's policy framework on agriculture, like the Planting for Food and Jobs, One Village, One Dam and One District, One Factory. Comrade Karawe led the General Agricultural Workers Union to take a strong position against illegal mining and joined other like-minded organizations in calling on government to ban it altogether. He currently serves as the titular for Africa and the Agricultural World Trade Group of the International Union of Food, Tobacco, Hotel, Restaurant, Catering, etc. He led the TUC Ghana team on the review of the ongoing Labour Act 651 and has led the constitutional committees of the TUC at 2 congresses. He holds a diploma in labor studies from the same university in 2001 and alumnus of the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, South Africa, where he obtained a master's degree in economic sociology in 2008 and bachelor's of arts degree in economics and sociology from the University of Cape Coast. His research interests are in economic policy and planning, with emphasis on power relations between the factors and actors underpinning policy formulation and policy implementation. Comrade Edward Karawe is a farmer and has passion for engaging on issues of community development and social justice.
Gentlemen, our next guest for this first round of dialogue is Dr. Joseph Obeng. Obeng is president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA. He is the CEO of New Lucky Electricals Limited. He is the coordinator for the Joint Private Sector Business Consultative Forum. Dr. Obeng was recently appointed as a member of the Board of Advisors for the India-Africa Trade Council. He has served on many government committees, including the Finance Ministry's Foreign Exchange Development Committee, Ministerial Advisory Board of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Committee on Foreign Retail Trade, among others. He was awarded the Business Leadership Award of the year 2021. He also won the Noble International Award and was inducted into the House of Nobles by the West Africa Nobles Forum. Dr. Joseph Obeng is one of the signatories to the blueprint that led to the introduction of the VAT flat rate scheme. Ladies and gentlemen, the last guest speaker for the first round is Dr. Edu Sarkodie. Dr. Edu Owusu Sarkodie is currently a lecturer at the Department of Economics, University of Ghana, where he teaches microeconomics, economic growth and development, and industrial economics. His research areas are development economics, labor economics, health economics, public sector economics, and international trade. He has scholarly papers in development economics, health economics, and public finance published to his credit. From 2013 to date, he has been the resource person to the visiting students from the California State University in USA. Dr. Edu Owusu Sarkodie is a graduate from the University of Ghana, where he obtained his bachelor's and master's degrees in 2007 and 2010 respectively. He was trained by the African Economic Research Consortium. Dr. Sarkodie obtained his PhD in economics in 2018. As part of his PhD program, he received an internship from United Nations University World Institute for Development Economics Research in Helsinki, Finland. Dr. Sarkodie was awarded the Berks Africa Postdoctoral Fellowship at the American University in Cairo from October 2021 to March 2022. Mr. Chairman, guest speakers, your audience, your chairman, and guest speakers. Over to you, Akwesi.
Right, thank you very much. So we'll have Chairman give us brief remarks or talk to us what his expectations are. Maybe give us a summary of the economy, what he's expecting the guest speakers to be talking about. And of course, I'm sure he will be interlacing with them, having a word or two to be saying in the course of the discussion. But Sandra, I thought you were going to introduce your MC as well. Anna. I haven't gotten to the level of the speakers. Well, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, kindly help me welcome. I'm sure Chairman will stand here briefly, speak to us briefly, and then we can set the ball rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, is that how you want to acknowledge your Chairman? Dr. Samanka is our Chairman for the occasion this morning. Doc, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you will be part of the discussions as well. So I will take my seat right away.
We call upon to chair this very, very important occasion. As you all know, the Ghana cedis has depreciated against major global currencies, including the US dollars, the British pound, the euro, and to name a few. Some argues that the demand and supply of the dollar versus cedis in the face of rising imports. Others also blame it on the Russia-Ukraine war. The aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic and its disruption in the supply chain is blamed for the depreciation of the cedis. Others point to the weak economic fundamentals in the Ghanaian economy, including low productivity, excessive imports versus exports, high debt-to-GDP ratio, and opportunity dealings by currency dealers and private enterprises. While we gathered here today, as economists, what we do is not about providing leadership in finding solutions to our human problems, so as to ensure that we all live as fellow citizens. Our work does not promote lives to ensure that our people realize their full God-given potential and the wrong students. If I'm breaking protocol with tradition by not presenting theory today, it is because it is no more business as usual. It will be dangerous, as it is irresponsible, for us not to change our ways of doing things in order to get different results. Our people expect us to do that. Our families expect us to do that. And we owe it to ourselves to do the right thing. In answering this question, many, many times, why bother? These meetings are being held. Events have happened all the time. However, politicians do what they want. To answer his own question, as an answer to over 32 million Ghanaians and 1 billion Africans, Greg Mills did not mince his words. The reason why Africa people are poor is because good development examples abound in East Asia and further afield in other parts of Asia and in Central America. But why then has Africa failed to realize its potential in half a century of independence? He believes that Africa is poor, one, not because the world has denied the continent the market and financial means to compete, far from it. Two, or because of aid per se. Or three, is solely consequence of poor infrastructure of trade, access, or because the necessary development and technical expertise is unavailable internally. He went on to raise another question, which I pose to all of you here today. Why then has our continent lagged behind other developing areas when its people work hard and the continent is blessed with abundant natural resources and human capital? I quote, "Stomping across the continent and in developing the world in search of answers, Greg Mills controversially shows that the main reason why African people are poor is because their leaders have made this choice." So then, who are our leaders? Is it the political establishment in these countries or individual politicians? Are they acting alone or with complicity with others? And who are the others? Are they accountable? And to whom? These are the questions that Ghana and Ghanaians, you and I, and every African must begin to find answers to it before it's too late. It is a reason why this dialogue ought to be different. My key message for our country to succeed is economists and industry captains must provide leadership in charting new economic paradigm which will enable Ghana and Africa to take its destiny into its own hands. China did it. South Korea done it. Malaysia, Singapore, the list goes on. Ghana must rise up and shine once more. And my clarion call to all of us today is we must commit to understanding and embracing the new dynamics needed to move the country and Africa forward. It's time for Ghana to once again show leadership in the continental stage by taking control of the economy and providing hope to its citizens. If we say we are waiting for politicians to take the mantle and provide the technical leadership to solve our over 60 years old economic problem, we'll be waiting another 60 years and there will be no solution. This might sound very harsh, but it's true. The odds are stacked against most politicians in Ghana. And knowing the situation in other countries, I can say that for majority of Ghanaian politicians, I've had the privilege of meeting and who represent people in various constituencies, they do genuinely want to achieve meaningful results for their constituents. Meaning and wanting to achieve is not enough to get the work done. That is what accounts for persistent failure to get results on the ground. As economists, as industry captains, we've stayed on the fence for far too long. This and other initiatives that we will undertake should activate our huge potential to unlock the door to our socio-economic development before handing over the baton to the next generation. If we fail to seize this opportunity, posterity will judge us harshly. The evidence shows that Ghana, like many African countries, can grow its economy and develop faster if we stand together with our political representatives as economists, bankers, accountants, built environment professionals, etc., to take sound decisions in the national interest instead of partisanship, personal or party interest. During this discussion, we would like to hear your objective and candid views on the cause, effects, and workable solutions to addressing this city depreciation issue. We would also like to know your thoughts on measures that can be taken in the near to medium term to address this issue and to ensure sustainable economic growth for Ghana. With this in mind, I welcome you to this discussion and I turn over to the moderators who will proceed to get you your insights. Thank you and God bless you.
Dr. Sam Ankra is the chairman for the very august occasion. I thought you were going to give him a proper round of applause. And let me remind you that even though it's a dialogue series, we are here in the studio, you are still live on TV. So when I ask you to clap, when I ask you to smile, you want to do it in a better way so that one of my lecturers would say, so that your family members will be proud of you. So that people that are watching you will be proud of you. I'm getting a lot of text messages from people that are watching us from far and near, outside the country and within the country, who are very interested in matters of the city and want to know the kind of solutions that our guests who are seated here will proffer for us this morning. Let me also remind you that our guests seated here are not the only guests that we have for the morning. We are going to have a second round of the session, of course, again chaired by our venerable Dr. Sam Ankra, and that will be a second session of it. In the course of time, we will introduce to you the guests who will be spearing the second session of the show for us this morning. Our question is very simple. What is the cause of the falling rate of the city? I'm sure the economists will be talking about the depreciation of the city. Those are the proper economic terms to use. And how are we able to help the city to appreciate? Doc has laid the foundation for us. And I picked one thing. I picked one thing from Doc, that is it a matter of leadership or it's a problem that economists have to take hold of? I want to ask my panelists, and I'm going to begin with Dr. Jeke Dakwon, the fact that whether it's an issue of leadership, what's the problem that we have? We know that a lot of people, especially government, and let me also be emphatic that this forum is non-political. We are not doing politics here, and I'm going to make sure that we don't get into politics at all. But to set the basis, some people have cited coronavirus pandemic, Ukraine-Russian war as a basis for the problems that we have in our country with the economy. Some people have argued that yes, even though those external factors are affecting the economy, we also have homegrown issues or home issues that are really affecting the economy. Before I come to you, Doc, my producer says I have a quick video. I want to play that, and then I'll come back to you to begin with. Let's have the video.
The World Bank Africa Post report for October 2022 volume ranked the Ghana cedi as the worst performing currency in Africa since the beginning of the year, with a depreciation of 60% against the United States dollar. Over 25% of that loss occurred in October alone, as the decline in the cedi has accelerated at its sharpest rate since it was redominated 50 years ago. The Ghanaian government has been forced to seek assistance from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, as it faces soaring inflation, high debt, rapidly rising interest rates abroad, and falling prices of cocoa, one of its major exports. The Ghanaian cedi is the official currency of the Republic of Ghana. The cedi was introduced after the country left the British pound system in 1965. Like other emerging market currencies, the cedi's value is driven by the country's trade balance, foreign currency reserves, gross domestic product, GDP, and also monetary policy, as well as foreign investment flows and commodity prices. In addition to being the world's second largest cocoa producer, Ghana also exports crude oil and gold.
Right, so that's about it. And just before I go on to Dr. Jeke Dakwon, I have some very important people in the studio, and it is only right for me to acknowledge them. I'm going to do this quickly because of time. Let me introduce to you Dr. John Kwachi, Director of Research for IEA. Dr. John Kwachi has been a long-standing member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana. Please, you want to acknowledge him appropriately. Dr. John Kwachi is here. Alhaji Salisu Mode is a Precision Recovery Chief Executive Officer. Alhaji Salisu, kindly let's acknowledge you. My very own Samson Awingobit, Executive Secretary, Ghana Importers and Exporters Association. Mr. Awingobit is here. Please let's acknowledge him. Rabiu Mott is the CEO, Geotech Forex Bureau. Let's acknowledge Rabiu. Students from Institute of Certified Chartered Economists. Let's acknowledge you, students from Institute from Certified Chartered Economists. All right. Kobna Ajikum is the CEO, CIMG. Please acknowledge him properly. CIMG. We have reps from the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, if you are here, please let's acknowledge you. And let me also state that we are heavily supported by Dalex Finance and Ayiwa Restaurant, which is in Achimota. Please acknowledge Dalex Finance and the Ayiwa Restaurant. And of course, you see Prudential Life Ghana also here, heavily supporting us. Please acknowledge Prudential Life here. It looks like I've been talking for far too long. Let me go straight to Dr. Jeke Dakwon. I asked a question. Is it a problem of leadership?
I believe so. I think that most of the time our leaders tend to focus on some populist policies, if I'm supposed to put it that way, and they neglect the very important things that would build our economy and make our economy very resilient. I think that we've been speaking so much about trying to get ourselves into an export-based country, and that hasn't, for some reason, hasn't been able to materialize properly. I was so hopeful when I saw the 1D, 1F policy or intervention, and I was hopeful that this was going to turn the economy around and allow firms to sort of produce and add some value to their products and then help us in our export earnings, etc. But till date, I haven't seen so much. I haven't seen what that has been able to do to our economy, and we are rather focusing on the many things. I'm not saying they are not important, but we are putting some things before these things that I think are very, very essential in propelling the economy. And so I think it's a problem with leadership. We are thinking about how to win the next elections. We are not really focusing on the basic things that we need to do to make our economy develop. Over the years, we've not been able to transform properly. The normal sequence of transformation for every economy, especially the agrarian economies like Ghana, is for us to move and develop our agricultural sector. Once we are able to develop our agricultural sector, we move on into manufacturing and then services. But what are we seeing in terms of our contribution to GDP? We are seeing that the services sector is actually leading our growth in the economy. So we've not, our structural transformation has actually not taken place the way we want it to take place. And so I would blame it in a way to leadership. But in terms of solutions, I think we need like a concerted effort. Everybody has a role to play. And I'm sure we'll come to.
Let me go straight to you, Dr. Obin, from the industry perspective. You have been, one way or the other, been fighting government, fighting, making sure that your industry is working very well. Is it a problem of leadership?
I think we have a fundamental problem in this country, and it's structural. And so, no, it goes back with time. And that, if I would say leadership, then it transcends to the various leaders that have come. And then structural transformation. And so, you mentioned excessive importation, and that we have to do exports. I believe that's the surest way forward, and that we haven't done much, even though we all recognize and acknowledge the fact that we have to increase productivity to shore up our forests. That is not done. Now, I can say that this was the golden opportunity this time that we have for us to veer into buying from made in Ghana goods. But the opportunity is not there because imports have become very expensive and very discouraging, that we are now looking inward to find a serious alternative, which is not there. So when we said that we should patronize made in Ghana goods, tell me, how do we do that? So we are the distributive arm of the economy, and the vibrancy of our industrialization depends on the distributive arm. And that we have to make sure that we ensure productivity through industrialization, so that when we become self-sufficient, then of course we can go ahead and be saying that we have to stop excessive importation, even though I recognize. But the excessive importation has been the bane, and that we have to work towards it. But it's so simple, and I find it difficult why they are not able to do. We do excessive importation, and it's delaying the effort of manufacturing or local industrialization. The local share in this is very negligible. What we do as the gooder, exporters and importers and all that, our share in the total import that we do into this country is about 15 to 20%.
But you're able to divert, you can be able to divert your investment from as Doctor said, from the importation into the local economy. You mentioned that the problem is structural.
I'll come to that. I'll come to that. So we have the easiest way. The bulk of importation that is done is being done by the multinationals, the China malls and all that. So all that we have to do is to use our investment laws to drive this excessive importation, to drive these foreigners into more preferred areas of manufacturing. And then make sure that they do not come and dump goods into our system, but rather, if they will even have opportunity to trade, they should bring in the forest, the amount of money that they want to trade with, come and put it in the Bank of Ghana and use it to trade. But as it were, it's good for forests that we are doing. They bring their goods and come and take our forests. And that has been the serious problem. And you said that we have to do the negligible 20% that bring this importation. We always dwell on this and say that we import even toothpick. True. Trading is buying and selling of goods. And so, admittedly, we have been dwelling so much on the buying. That's the importation. And that we hardly do the selling. And we do not do the selling, not because we don't want to do that. Because even Guta, we have said that we will have a policy called income in, income out policy, where normally we will send goods to our import destinations and use the proceeds to bring the goods to Ghana. In this case, we are able to shore up the foreign exchange and also help our very selves. But the problem had been even to identify the goods to export. And that's why we are now partnering with Ghana Export Promotion Authority to see how we can be able to get more goods that is produced here in Ghana and to export. So the problem is very structural. If you have the goods in abundance, if you have the goods in self-sufficiency, if you have it in very highly competitive, then of course we will patronize and then Ghana will be the better off.
Edward, Guta thinks that you're not producing enough. Doctor had said that if you look at development economics, you begin from agric, and then you go into manufacturing, then service. Service has taken over currently, of course, distorting virtually everything in the city. We are asking that they should be able to invest their monies into your sector, primarily, to be able to grow the economy. But they say they can't find it.
I'm privileged to be part of this dialogue, more importantly, the first series. And I just want to add my voice to whether or not the problems we are facing in this country are rooted in our leadership, or you can blame the victims. You know, a leader must be someone who gives inspiration to his people. A leader should not bring despair and despondency to his people. You know, a leader must work to fulfill the agenda of his people. A leader must not work to fulfill his own agenda. Look, I think that our leaders are not of their own mind. In fact, if you sit and watch them, and you know the pedigree that they are, and what they do, you would know very well that if it is spiritual, you say that they are spiritually captured. But I don't want to go there because it is very difficult to explain that. But in scientific analysis, and that's where my specialty is, we look at factors and actors that underpin policy outcomes. When a policy is determined, Just don't look at it and think that, oh, it is like that. So you go back and see who and what has caused that policy to come to that point. Now, so you can clearly see that our leaders are not of their own mind. They are working for somebody else. They are not working for their people. They are working for themselves and somebody somewhere. One, what is an economy? Because the economy, you must produce. When you produce, you consume. And in order to consume, because we have got a modern economy, you need money to be able to link all this. Because if you don't have money, you cannot go to the producer to buy the food for your consumption. So money becomes critical here. And we should all remember that we are products of what? Policy. You've asked the question, why is Dr. Obin and his group, that is Guta, not investing in the economy and rather importing? It's all a function of policy. If you had not invited us here, we will not be able to come here. If the policy had not permitted Metro TV to organize a forum like this, look, no matter what, we cannot be here. So policy is important. So the policy is pushing people to do what they are not supposed to do. When we produce, who do we produce for? We copied blindly. We started to say that export-led development. How do you do that? You have not finished meeting your domestic needs and you are talking about export. It doesn't make sense. That is why we have to start from agriculture. You don't have food to eat and you are producing food to sell outside. Does it make sense? So that strategy is totally failed because we need to produce to meet our own needs. And let me tell you, there's no country in the world that can produce this malls better than us here because this is domestically produced. So the people produce for themselves, and when they finish using it, they produce for others too. So when you say it is, to now answer the question, which I have already made, it is the problem of leadership. And our leaders are really not of their mind because you wonder whether with, you see, leadership is not just about the degrees that you own, you have, the power that you have. And you're also misusing power. Because what do we need power for? For the benefit of your people. If you are developing a policy, if you are implementing a policy, the policy must go to benefit your people. But unfortunately, the policies are rather hurting our own people. The agricultural sector, for instance, why do you think that you will not invest in agric and you will rather decide to promote importation? I know maybe Mr. Obeng or Dr. Obeng may not agree with me here, but I see no sense that you should subsidize imports into this country. The discounted benchmark value, which is a policy that came from our leaders, for me, I don't know the essence of it. Why? Because it was wholesale. You can give benchmark value to imports that you don't have capacity to produce, or imports that are very essential and you don't have them. For instance, if pharmaceutical products, which are life-saving area, where if your people do not have it, they cannot survive, you can say that, look, let me give a certain level of what? Benchmark value. When you import, the duty, part of it, I'll take it. But what on earth can our leaders think that we must say, when you import into this country, we should give you what? A subsidy. When you are not ready to give subsidy to producers to produce in your economy, and when the city goes its own way, you are looking for the city. Where will you find it? And let me even say there, sometimes you need to say the things as they are. Today, in the minds of Ghanaians, many will say that we don't have a currency. Because how many of us, when we have an opportunity, will not go for the dollar, the pounds, the euros, instead of the cedi? They are forcing us to spend the city. Those who still spend city are those who cannot do anything about it. But if they have their own way, they will go and take the dollar.
Right, so let me come to you, Dr. Sarkodie, on the same question, whether it's a problem of the economic hardships we're currently facing, it's a problem of leadership. And I would lead you to answer the next question. What exactly is the cause of the depreciation of the city and how we are able to come out of it? I'll bring that round and then come to my audience. So whether the economic problem currently is a problem of leadership and then the depreciation of the city.
Good morning. It's sometimes difficult to speak after my seniors have spoken. There doesn't seem to be much to say. When the political system is right, the economic system will function correctly. We are economists, we are researchers. We only research and advise. We are not in power if the person in power does not implement what you have recommended. It will amount to nothing. Fortunately for us, most of the people in power in Africa and in the developing world do not have time to do any serious research, and therefore they implement anything that will benefit their politics. Those of us who have time to research, when we research, we don't have power to implement. But when we write papers, articles, have conversations like this, they don't listen. So I want to see that at the end of the day, we'll be able to use this platform to push and then force them to implement some of our views. And so the political system must always be right for the economic system to function correctly. My professor always tells me that there's always the dichotomy between the political expediency and economic efficiency. If the economics is saying that do A, B, C, when the politician looks at it, he says, no. If I do A, B, C, though it may yield economic resource, but I may lose the next election. You flip the coin, if the politician wants to do C, D, E, F, though some of us sitting with economic mindset will say, no, this one will collapse the economy, but they will go ahead and implement it. Why? Because they are thinking of the next election. Democracy has been good for us in Ghana, but this 4 years election cycle is our bane. We need to do something about it. The answer to your second question, Ghana is in a global village. All countries, we have opened up our economy. We trade with China, UK, Japan, all these countries. So when you trade, you need the foreign currency. And so the exchange rate is just the price of the foreign currency in terms of the domestic currency. Now, the price of the foreign currency in terms of the domestic currency will either increase or decrease depending on the flow of the foreign exchange. Let me give you a list. Maybe, I'm sure, if we don't remember anything, you may remember one thing here. A list of those who demand foreign currency and those who supply it, or what demands it and what supplies it. Let's limit ourselves to the dollar, because I know there are other currencies, but let's limit ourselves to the dollar. Let's look at the demand side, because the value of your CD or the exchange rate depends on whether how much you demand is more or less than how much you supply. That is a simple mathematics. Those who demand, importers, and I think my brother here, Guta is here. Importers include all other importers, including the BDCs, those who import crude oil for us. Repatriation. We have businesses that do, some companies in Ghana do business here. They earn their profit in cedis. But because they hold their accounts in the foreign country, they have to change it and demand foreign currency, in this case dollars, and then repatriate it. And that is why I'll come to that. If you see, the trade balance is always positive, but the current account is always negative because of the transfer of interest, profit, etc. And churches, some of the churches we have here, they have their headquarters outside of the country. So you stabilize the city, by Friday, Sunday, the collection comes, and then boom.
This is the first time I'm hearing of this. Churches.
Oh yeah. But because we live in Africa and religion is so sensitive, we are not willing to talk about some of these sensitive issues.
So we should be able to.
I'm a Baptist, and so I talk about it, and so we must talk about it. I'm talking about those who demand dollars, and our churches are part of it. Those who demand dollars for domestic use, hotels, even primary schools here in Ghana, they charge in dollars. And then we have the government also demanding dollars or foreign currency to service their debt, because part of the public debt is an external component. So the government also earns the taxes, the revenue in cedis, and when they have to service, they buy dollars to service their debt. And then we have those who want to buy, bonds outside or whatever, and speculators. There are people who are demanding the dollars not for any urgent use, but because they are not sure of the value of the cedi in future, they just simply change the cedis and go and buy dollars. Sometimes keep it under their pillow for whatever use only they know. Now let's come to the supply side. What or how do we get dollars or foreign currency into the economy? Number one, exports. Number two, aid, grants. That's assistance from outside other countries. Then FDI, foreign direct investments, around $2.6 billion. Then the special drawing rights. Last year or 2 years ago, government of Ghana withdrew the $1 billion special drawing rights. And so we have already used that money. We don't qualify to go for another round. So the special drawing rights with the IMF. So in simple terms, most countries who are members of the IMF more or less keep their savings, certain amount of savings with them. And then when they are in difficulties, the IMF allows them to withdraw. And Ghana, we have already withdrawn our $1 billion. Then remittances. We have relatives, friends abroad who remit us. And so when it comes, it goes through the banking system, goes to the forex, markets, whatever. Then we get dollars or foreign currency into the system. Then we have foreigners who come to buy our domestic bond. So when somebody is in the US and is coming to buy Ghana's bond or treasury bill, they come with foreign currency, and then we get the inflow. And then lastly, borrowing. When the government of Ghana goes to the Eurobond market, by the way, we have borrowed $15 billion from the Eurobond market alone. $15 billion. And that is supposed to give us some foreign exchange, but we are not getting it. It is the reason our cedi has depreciated so fast this year. Why? Because the government of Ghana has not been able to borrow from the Eurobond market since January. On top of it, foreigners who are holding Ghana's sovereign bond are selling. So they are demanding dollars. And then even those who hold domestic bonds are also selling, and they are demanding dollars. So you go through the list. I am a student of the supply side. I always want to talk about what is bringing in the inflow. You go through the list. You see that aid and grant, because Ghana is a middle-income country, we don't get it. Special drawing right is out. FDI, we are okay, 2.6 billion. Remittances has a problem. I have been told by, let me mention his name because it is his idea, Professor Bob Watson is my head of department. He has done some research and he has realized that most of the remittances that we get in the country do not go through the banking system. So it is not officially reported. Somebody will have a remittance company in the US, for example, and then one in Ghana. So if your brother wants to send you, say, $1,000, he keeps the $1,000 in the US. It doesn't come here. And then you go to the office here in Accra to collect the cedi equivalent of the $1,000. This is a crime. And those people must be arrested. Because we need, the remittance is just a source of...
How do they get the money into the system?
They have their subsidiary companies here. They have their subsidiary companies here. And so we must check all these things. The remittance is a source of dollars. Then let me end on the exports. I have heard from my seniors that we need to encourage exportation, cut down imports. But these statistics will maybe change the narrative. Ghana export more than we import. This year, according to the Bank of Ghana, we exported $11.8 billion and imported $10.2 billion. Only the first 9 months of this year. It means that there's excess.
I see Dr. Obin nodding his head.
Yes. It means that there's excess of $1.6 billion. So do we import more or import less? Definitely, we export more than we import. And this has been with us for some time now. It's not only this year. Since maybe the last 4 or 5 years, we have been exporting more than we import. Now, so what is the conversation? The conversation is about the ownership of the resource. This is where I want to dwell so much per this dialogue series. The ownership of our resource, the ownership of our foreign currency. Let me give you the figures again. Out of the $11.8 billion exports in the first 9 months of this year, $4.2 billion comes from gold. Remember, Ghana used to be the first producer of gold in Africa. And now we have been overtaken by South Africa, so we are number 2. And Ghana is about number 8 in the whole world exporter of gold. So out of the 11.8 billion, 4.2 is coming from gold. 3.8 is coming from oil. So only 2 items are commanding $8 billion out of the total 11.8 billion. Then you add cocoa to it. Cocoa is giving us $1.7 billion. It is only the cocoa's $1.7 billion that we have everything with the Bank of Ghana and Cocoa Board. The $8 billion that are coming from gold and oil, we don't get even up to 2. Ghana's share in the $8 billion is not even up to $2 billion. So we sit here and we cry that the cedi is depreciating, we need dollars. Meanwhile, we have exported more than we import, and yet our cedi is depreciating. So you don't look at the current account, you look at the capital account, the flow of resources, the flow of the forex. We have no control over our own money. The repatriation and the exports, 2 commodities, in fact 3 commodities accounting for 82% of total exports, and only cocoa's 1.7 billion that you have 100% control over. 8 billion from only gold and oil, you are not getting even up to 2 billion. This is where the conversation must be. And I have been involved in the research about the natural resource, the extractive sector. Botswana government is commanding 55% in the extractive sector. The Nigerian government is commanding 51% of the extractive sector. Ghana's government is commanding only 16% of the extractive sector. 16%. If we don't want to talk about Norway, we don't talk about Saudi Arabia, they are a big company, they are a big country, sorry. We want to talk about Botswana. We want to talk about Nigeria, our own neighbors, commanding 51%, 55% in Botswana, diamond, Ghana, gold, oil, manganese, name them, and just 16%. Between 2011 and 2018, we did another research between 2011 and 2018. The economic rent, that's the economist's way of calculating profit. The economic rent for the extractive sector alone amounted to $43 billion. Ghana government gained only $4.5 billion
out of $43 billion.
So you gain 10.4% of the economic rent, and in calculating the economic rent, you have accounted for all the costs involved. You have even accounted for what the economists call the opportunity cost. So don't bring the question of capital here, because you have already deducted all the cost. You have deducted all the cost. What prevents us as a country to go to the Eurobond market and raise bonds and increase our shares in the extractive sector? What prevents us? The contract that we have signed is giving us 10% of the economic rent, the contract. So it comes back to your question about leadership.
Right.
Who are those who went to sign the contracts?
Right.
They should come and answer these questions.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So I'll be coming to the audience pretty shortly, but I want to give you and Dr. Dakun the chance, and of course, on the cause of the city. Dr. Sarkodie has, I think, technically summarized it for us. Ownership of resources, and you have started talking about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll go to that.
But briefly do, so that I can quickly run to
let's say things that are also deliberate when it comes to depreciation of the city. I think we've all heard that some economists have been saying that the city is so strong and then the city should be allowed to find its level. When they start saying this, then you should know that there's something up in their sleeves. Have you also heard that depreciation is good for export and that we should allow the city to depreciate? If we understand this, then we can also know, if you know what is called devaluation, then of course you also appreciate that sometimes we do some of these things deliberately, and then sometimes it backfires. And so let's think about that. And so we should know the real value of our currency. That's the most important thing, so that it stops this speculation that the city is so strong, it needs to be depreciated and all that. What is the real value of our currency? The economy should be able to tell us. Then the overdominance of foreigners in the economy is so huge. And I've been saying, that's why I'm so excited about what doctors have been talking about. And we've been saying this. Let me tell you, now, suffice it to say that we've been getting balance of trade surplus for the past 5 years. Then the city should have been strengthened. Why is it not strengthened? It's strengthened because of excessive demand of the forest. Excessive demand. And where is it coming from? First, it is through this excessive importation that we do. And I've said that China Mall alone, the goods that they bring is about 30% of the entirety of what we bring. And 30%, and they do not bring anything. What the investment law allows the foreign participation in trading is evidence of 1 million worth of goods. And presto, you are there. And so they bring these millions upon millions of goods, dump here, and then take the forest. When we talk about excessive importation, then we forget, we are lost about what the service industry has been doing to us. The service industry, the stake in it, is so huge, sometimes it's more than the importation that we do. The banking, what is our share in the banking in this country? The local component in banking is about, you can get about 4 banks out of the lot. And all of them export, you know the profits that turn up from the banking sector, so huge. Some of them about 800 million, 1 billion, and all that. And all this money is changed and sent to the mother countries. Then we come to communication. Let's come to communication. We don't have a stake there. I think it's only Vodafone that we have some stake. We sold it all. And so that our investment in the juiciest part of the economy is negligible. And that we do not have retention policy. We should have a retention policy by deliberately investing in this juiciest part of the economy who control the bulk of the resources in this country. And that's what is lacking. So they take this money and they have 100% repatriation right to send all this money. That's why the depreciation has become perennial. Apart from this year that has been sustained, it has been perennial over the years because it starts from December, January, and February, because that's the end of the year
where the repatriation is done.
Where the repatriation is done. Look at this. And then we come to the forest bureaus, the black market.
That's one point I was going to raise. With you especially, you buy from the black market. You buy.
Yes, and here too, the Bank of Ghana has not been helping, because Bank of Ghana should be able to control the forest in a manner that we do not even fall on the black market. We don't have to feed them. The transaction that we do at the Bank of Ghana is so limited because of stringent documentary requirements. The Bank of Ghana is not there to do accounting over my transaction. The GRA is supposed to do accounting over my money. All that Bank of Ghana needs is the evidence of my import or export. That's it. But they make it so stringent that we feel we have the need to go to the Alaji, to go to the black market and all that. They have to, and then also the banks in these West African countries, you know the names. It's networked so that if you put money in, say, Nigeria or Benin, you can come to the Ghana. If the bank is here, then you take your money. Who controls this? So the person, just if there's a shortage of dollar or the forest in the person's country, he just put the money, come and take here and go to the black market and buy this money as if they are trading in commodity and put it in a sack loads and send it to these countries. We should be able to monitor all these things. Overdependence of foreign services by Ghanaians. We go to, we do our education outside. Most of the rich guys do their health care overseas. And one person's health care, especially those bigger people, about $300,000 for maybe his health care. It's about 10 containers, what I do. So it's not that it's excessive importation and then we neglect all the other areas. The churches that we are talking, and let's not even forget, these days, even the women, some of them do it for the luxury of it, the cosmetics of this. And then they can send about 30,000, go and fix their here and here. All of these are putting pressure.
Here and here, which ones are you talking?
Here and here. And they put pressure on this dollar. Speculation has not been helping us. The speculation is not out of the noise that we create, unfortunately.
There's a competitive.
But what, something triggers it. When we are not able to stabilize the currency and it starts going up, then it triggers the noise that normally comes. So it's like chicken and egg situation. Which one comes first? We have to be able to stabilize the currency at all times. And the churches, they control the bulk of the money. Church is one day. First it used to be once a week. Now it's daily. And then the money that goes to this area, no matter.
Church is once a week on Sundays.
No, it's every evening. And then the money that goes there, we have to be able to monitor the movement. We are not saying that they should stifle them or take this thing by movement, because most of them change this money. When the exchange rate was in trouble, their collections were all turned into buying the forest, because they do that as a form of security for their capital. And so we have a lot. The demand aspect is too huge, and the foreign dominance of these resources is overbearing, and that we have to think within.
So I don't know whether I should come to you first or go to Edward first. There is a question I want to ask you about some people calling for the Bank of Ghana to be scrapped so that we can just peg the dollar or the exchange rate at a certain level, and then we don't have the issues of fluctuation. But let me go to Edward and I'll come back to you on that point, plus all the other points that you have on the causes of the city. Edward, you are a Greek, and I mean, from the basics, there is entrepreneurship drives going on, Ghana Enterprises Agency, National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program, we see the Youth Employment Agency, we see the National Youth Authority. All of these institutions trying to make investments into building entrepreneurs, training, putting skills development in the young and up-and-coming ones to make sure that they get empowered on their own, especially in the area of agri. Well, they do lots of artisanal training and so on and so forth, but to build up their people, to get the economy to be self-sustained by themselves. But we are still not reaching anywhere. From your point, what exactly is causing the city to fall?
Well, I think that I've already indicated that when you want to interrogate those policies, you also have a leadership that does not listen to its people. I just don't understand why you are a leader when you refuse to listen to your people. You can't come and impose things on your people. Listen to your people. And the point that all that has been, he listed a number of people, institutions that are having forex or dollars when they are not supposed to have. It's as a result of policy. The policy allows people to have money when they don't need it, the dollars. We know that Bank of Ghana is supposed to have dollars. Why is it that dollars are floating everywhere? Why? These are bochi people. Where do they get their money? Where do they get their money? And when you look at them, you even know that you suspect that they have that so much. Yet they have it. Where did they get it? And why is it that Bank of Ghana cannot get? There's a problem with our policy. And it does not lie in any of us here, because we are just victims. So that is it. And then the speculation, you know, is an economic term which is good, because without speculation, you cannot have business. But we do business with the speculation, that if I invest now, by the time that my investments will come out, I'll have so much and so and so. So speculation is good, except that when it goes beyond a certain level. Again, you are talking about skills and setting up entrepreneurship and the rest to take people to the agriculture. That alone will not follow. If I go to the university to run a course, I run a course in engineering, and I come out, and you say that, look, I should go and do entrepreneurship. Did I go to learn that? Because it's not everybody who can go into entrepreneurship. Don't force people there. It's certainly the failure of policy. You see, you need to structure the economy in such a way that, look, all of us here, we are not tailors, we are not seamsters, we are not this, but we are wearing clothing. There are people who are doing that for us, and they have got the scale. We do not have it. We just need to consume what they have. We also give them something in another way. Why do you force me to go and become a seamstress or a tailor? Just because you think so. Are you listening to your people? Are you listening to them? That is, again, the effect of policy. Now, when you want to address the city, you certainly have to use policy to address it. Some of us have had the benefit of once in a while traveling outside. You cannot just go and say that I want to change my currency, and then you get it. But in Ghana, you don't need that. Why is it so? You cannot block anybody if the person is doing that. Where are our leaders? You know, so again, the whole thing has to, and I'm just hoping that our leaders are waking up to the fact that they should listen. We talk and they don't listen. We just talk and they don't listen. They go to the World Bank, they go to the IMF, for what? Look, some of us have already opposed Ghana going to the IMF. And I'll say it here again. Our going to IMF is going to exacerbate our problems. See? Why is this so? So, because we have just gone to IMF, immediately we are hearing that there must be a haircut. And then we announce also, they are trying to explain what the haircut means. Oh, your principal will not be touched. That what? Your interest or whatever. Why did I invest my money in those bonds in the first place? Is it because of my principal? It is the interest that I'll get from it that induced me to take my principal there. So if you come and tell me, a rational being like this, that look, your principal will not be touched, I think that is an admission of failure. Again, we want them to work for us. Who are you working for? And these are the conditionalities of IMF. Because IMF, those days we know, will say that, oh, go, they will impose on you. But this and they say, go and do it. And you teachers, when you set a question, and we've all gone to school, they set the question and say, answer it. Meanwhile, the teacher is holding the marking scheme. You see, if you want, go and answer it the way you want and bring it, they will mark you down.
Thank you.
So even if the IMF is telling us that we should come and set our homegrown policies and bring to them, Master, you cannot do your own way. If you get there, they will say no. And that is why we are having a haircut. For me, as an ordinary Ghanaian, but for going to the IMF, there will not have been haircut. And I'm also saying that it is not going to solve any problem at all.
Right.
For us.
Right. So let me come to Dr. Ejapoma to round it up for us with all of the issues that have been raised. You have the marking scheme, and so you mark it the way you want. But let's come to your demand and supply issues, all of the issues that have been raised on the depreciation of the cedi, and then we can take our comments from Chairman and get some questions from the audience.
Well, I think my colleagues have made very, very important points. Often lose sight of the retention policy that about the tax exemptions that we tend to give to the FDIs that come in. In our bid to attract FDI, we make the environment so conducive. We want to make the environment so conducive to them, to our own detriment. And it's refreshing, or I wouldn't say refreshing, but it's interesting actually, to see how much we are losing, you know, in terms of tax exemptions and then the retention policies. And I'm glad the central bank has started doing something about the retention policy. For example, the central bank, we know that the central bank is actually speaking to the firms in the mining or the extractive sector to be able to retain some part of the profits that they make in here, rather than repatriating everything, so that if they need something to take offshore, they actually take it offshore. So some efforts are being made, but I think that we need to make a lot of effort to ensure that we are benefiting from the opportunities that we are giving to the firms here. Now, I think one person spoke about the benchmark values. Yes, he spoke about the benchmark values. I totally agree with him to some extent. I agree that we shouldn't be putting forth or forward wholesale policies. We should be addressing things specifically. The wholesale policies are not helping us. If we are able to identify some gaps in there in terms of our supply, local supply not meeting the demand, then we can easily do that by estimating the gap. So for every product, if we see that there's a gap in there, we import to support, and then we can give some incentives to our importers so that they can bring in and help. But if we give wholesale policies out, if we intervene in the wholesale way, then I'm not sure what we are trying to do, because we also have domestic firms here that we are supposed to be protecting in a way. And if our industrialization drive is going to be met, then definitely we need to take a critical look at that. We also, I think our speakers have spoken about a bit of our fiscal deficit here, debt financing, our debt to GDP ratio as, you know, a factor contributing to the depreciation of our currency, but not a lot of emphasis was put there. I want to just speak a bit about it. So when we're exiting IMF at the end of 2018, going on to 2019, our debt to GDP ratio was around about 58%, if I'm correct, and that is an acceptable, you know, ratio as far as the IMF is concerned. I know that my colleague here doesn't want to hear about IMF, but yes, but it's an acceptable level, because then you make room for any shocks that may just get into your economy. You can go ahead and go and borrow. But between 2019 and 2021, we did add about 20% to our debt to GDP ratio.
2019 to 2021?
Yes, 20%. Well, some people would say that it was because of the many interventions that we gave for COVID. But I also believe that if we were not in an election year in 2020, many of the things that were done for our people, I appreciate everything that the government tried doing. But I believe that if we're not in an election year, 2020...
The free water wouldn't have been given.
Yes, I don't think that many of the things that were given to us would have been given to us, because we're mindful, and I know that those who were given were mindful that we're going to have to pay later on. It is one of the reasons why we are seeing our currency depreciate as at now, because as at 2021, getting to the end, it was very obvious that we're not going to be able to sustain our debts. We had reached 78% of GDP, 78 to 80% of GDP. And so the investors obviously started getting concerned. We were not able to get onto the international capital market to get some money, as Sarkodie was alluding to. And usually we use the Eurobond market to shore up our reserves. So once we couldn't get onto the international capital market, then it became a problem for us because we didn't have enough forex here to support the things that we were doing. So it's something that we need to look at. We need to try and look at how to bring down our debt to GDP. Our fiscal deficit, we need to take measures, and it's one of the recommendations that I'm going to be putting forward. In terms of speculation, I think that we also need to be watching the way we do things. I know that it's been triggered by something, but at the same time, we are all suffering. We are all having to bear the brunt of whatever actions that we've taken. People have speculated, people have bought dollars. I can't blame, for example, people who are trading for doing that, because they can't be assured of, a stable exchange rate to do their businesses, and they are into business for profit as well. So, I mean, as much as we are thinking about speculators here and there, people who are profiting from whatever we are doing, we also need to make sure we are putting in the measures that will try to stabilize our currency. So, you wanted something else?
I wanted you to speak about the thoughts of people, some people, that we should peg the currency at a certain level for the exchange rate.
Okay, so
briefly on that, then I can. Briefly on that, okay. 1 minute on that, okay. Then I can.
So, well, having a fixed exchange rate regime means that you are either going to be sacrificing your monetary policy or sacrificing your free flow of capital. So let's take the last one that I said. So if we're operating a fixed exchange rate regime and we wanted to have the central bank implementing freely its monetary policy here and there, that would mean that we would have to be restricting our capital flows, meaning that we cannot be borrowing. We cannot have FDI coming in freely. The question I would like to ask is whether we are ready for an economy like that. We are here mobilizing roughly, on average, let's say 12% of GDP in tax revenues. So if we're just restricting our activities to our domestic economy, how are we going to be able to finance our activities? That's a very important question that we need to ask ourselves. And given what we are doing now in terms of revenue, how we are performing in terms of revenue, we are doing lower than what the average African country is actually doing. Around 12–13% over the last 10 years. We haven't done so well. How are we going to be able to finance our activities? That's one. Now, let's go with the other one, which would mean that we would have free flow of capital, a fixed exchange rate regime, and then we would not have an independent monetary policy. That would mean that we are going to be instituting what we call a currency board. Now, there are elements of a currency board, 3 main elements of a currency board. It also goes with a fixed exchange rate regime, as I've spoken about. Number 2, you need to be able to have the equivalent of the anchor currency in terms of your local currency. So that if you have 1 cedi, right, you should have the equivalent of the 1 cedi in the anchor currency. And when I speak about the anchor currency, I'm talking about the currency that you are hoping to peg your currency against. So if it's the dollar, then it's the anchor currency that I'm speaking about. The reason that should happen is because when you're operating a currency board, you have to have automatic convertibility. You should be able to convert your currency easily into the anchor currency. Now, the question arises. With Ghana, I know that we are not so import dependent. For over the last how many years we've not been so import dependent. But we know that we are also short of foreign exchange reserves usually. So given the state of our economy, how are we going to be able to survive a currency board? 1. Number 2, right. So this is just the last one, that the last point that I need to.
Okay.
Please
so make that in 30 seconds.
Now, having a currency board means that you are going to be pegging, like I said, you're pegging your currency against an anchor currency. And the interest rate in the home country of that anchor currency is what you are going to be going with.
Bye.
Okay, so it means that you are going to be operating in a way, the monetary policy of that country. Assuming you have a shock in your country, and we know that our economy is not that resilient. So if we had a shock like we did for COVID, how are we going to be able to use the interest rate policies that the central bank used to make up and to help resolve the situation? I can understand their point of view that when you establish a currency board, it institutes credibility, it gives you low interest rates, it controls inflation. But I think that we should contextualize it. We should look at our situation before we propose.
Before we consider that.
Yes.
Right.
Our institutions are also not very ready for that.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Dr. Yekedaku. And so I am coming to you now. I have a short video that I'm going to play. But if you have a question, you may want to line up before the mic here. If you have a question, I'm going to have the chairman round up the conversation for us. While the chairman speaks, I will expect that if you have a question, kindly make your way. We'll have our ushers usher you to the mic, and then please make your way there. We'll have you ask your question, and then we'll get our panelists to answer. So whilst you make your way to the mic, we'll have chairman summarize everything for us. Guta will take to respond to the benchmark, but we'll still have chairman speak. When the question comes to you, I would allow you. I'm sure, I know that you really want to make a point on the benchmark issue. There are lots of things that you want to be talking about, but if you're ready, please make your way. Right.
This has been a very insightful discussion. I was hoping and I was praying for you to be very candid and objective in what you're saying. And honestly speaking, you've been very objective and very candid. And this is what the country needs. We need to send a very strong message out there that we're serious people, we're business people. We're not here to entertain, or we're not here to cover the issues, but we're here to unravel the issues and address the square on. I always have a policy that if we're honest with the diagnosis, we'll always be finding solutions to the problems. If we come and we dodge around the main problems, then obviously we are not looking to address the issue. So I really appreciate your candid opinion, your very objective views that you put across, and I'm hoping that the nation, the politicians, and everybody who's listening to us will pick it up and jot the notes. Thank you very much. I'll leave you to ask your questions, and then we can move on to the next stage. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Chairman, and then thank you very much, panelists, as well. Before I come to you, I see something, Asaki, take the mic, but let me go back to the control room. There is a video we are going to play to you, right, obviously on the city. We are talking about the depreciation of the city and how we should be able to come out of the mess, so to speak, for want of a better word. So I will have the video and then come back to you for the questions.
In 2020, the cedi was the best performing currency against the dollar at the start of the year, gaining 7.3% by mid-February. This followed a 13% decline in 2019. The cedi retreated slightly from the gains in March 2020, remained relatively stable between 5 Ghana cedis to 6 Ghana cedi to the dollar until the year's underperformance. The US dollar and Ghana cedi exchange rate started 2022 at 6 cedi 15 pesos and moved above 7 Ghana cedis in March, following the Russian invasion of Ukraine and as the US Federal Reserve began raising interest rates. Emerging markets have seen a jump in capital outflows since the start of the war in Ukraine, as investors have become more risk averse and sought safe haven in assets such as the US dollar. In August 2022, global ratings agencies S&P and Fitch Ratings downgraded the outlook for the Ghanaian economy, which further weighed on investor sentiment and exerted additional downgrade pressure on the exchange rate. The depreciation of the cedi calls for a thought-engaging discussions for workable solutions that require engagement with various stakeholders of the economy. The maiden edition of the Metro TV Economic Dialogue series on the theme Fixing the Ghana Cedi, Key to Sustainable Growth, set the stage for a paradigm shift in economic discourse in Ghana. Metro TV as a leading media brand under the Ignite Media Group, comprising of Metro TV, Original TV, and Original FM, values the tenet of national development by creating the platform for industry and government to agree in policy towards sustainable economic discussion. My name is Winston Taki. Keep enjoying the Metro TV Economic Dialogue series live right now on your screen.
All right, so you're welcome back. It's still the first series that we are having for you, Metro TV Economic Dialogue series. This is the first of its kind, and I'm sure you have enjoyed it so far. Time is really not on our side, but we'll try as much as possible to do with what we have. We'll now go to the audience for the questioning, and I see before the mic Samson Asaki Wingobit, Executive Secretary of Importers Exporters Association of Ghana. You mentioned your name, of course, Samson, I have for you already, but everyone else, you mentioned your name, where you are coming from, whether industry or academia, and please ask your question, brief, concise.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for having us. Afri, I am impressed this morning with the kind of team, very solid team that you constituted this morning to discuss the state of our economy. And then, of course, I must say kudos to Metro TV and all your groups for making it possible for those who are not here to also partake. I just want to add something to Dr. Sako there, your research, that I don't know whether if you were aware of the MPS concession in Tema and the kind of tax relief that we gave to them. And since they've been operating, I don't know whether if you know how much they are making and whether if those monies are stayed in this country. I just want to also add to you, because I'm coming from the shipping industry, and I'm a student of shipping, maritime studies, and we know that shipping is demand-driven. And so the shipping lines in Ghana as well take us, after taking us huge freight, we get to Ghana and they are taking us local handling charges. I'm not even quite sure whether how and the manner that it takes these monies out of the source of this country, whether it is actual accounting in our books or because they have boxes. When I say boxes, I mean the containers, they load it there and then straight to the vessel, then it goes. out of this country. The other aspect is we cannot shy away from the reckless fiscal policy that our government or the Minister of Finance is not respecting it. Because if you have a Minister of Finance and you have your Governor of Bank of Ghana come to public and say, look, you can't blame me for inflation because I am not in charge of fiscal policy. So it means that these two major institutions are not in talking terms. And so if I were to be the president, these two institution heads must be rolled. But yet you have the president still want to keep these people at post. And this is where we are. Now, when your chairman, Dr. Randy Abe, gave his opening remarks, he made it clear that they've selected some groups. But I was expecting to see AGI. I don't know whether for any specific reasons that they are not here or you couldn't extend invitation to them, because I was expecting to see AGI to come here and also tell us why they can't produce to meet the market demand. And why is it? Because we all know that there's a cost element of production in this country.
Right.
You can't phantom. Last but not the least, the poultry institution. Because all of us know that we are importing so much, and all the time they call me. You call me to talk about this poultry issue.
All right.
We know very much that we are not doing anything possible to support the poultry industries.
Okay.
We know the problem by ourselves. But we pretend to think that we are accusing the importer.
All right.
And without the importer, I'm sure you and I would have gone back to 83 hunger.
Right. Thank you very much. That's Samson Awingobit. Please let's have the next.
My contribution. My name is Godfred Kluger, CEO of Synergy Funds. I'm a student of a PhD student. I am for pegging. The situation we have now as a country, we need immediate solution and then a long-term solution. With the immediate solution, we have to look at pegging, and I'll explain why. When you look at the Forest Bureau's operation, what happens? I've sent about 50 interns to about 150 Forest Bureaus, and this is how they operate. Each morning, they call the black market to find out if they have a cedi, how much would they buy it? So if they say, oh, I will buy it at 14.9, they also put their margin on it and sell it at 15. So I can tell you on authority, the black markets are controlling the rate. That is a fact. Now, what do we do to stop this? We need policy. How can someone just go to the Forest Bureau and buy $1? You walk into a Forest Bureau, you buy $1 and hold it because you think you have expectation that the dollar will go up so that you make some gains. That in itself is causing shortage of the dollar because the whole thing is about demand and supply. So once they are squeezing the little they have in the economy and hoarding it, the dollar is not there. So when they are able to make a policy of pegging, of basket of currencies, not only the dollar, to make sure the rate is controlled. So, for example, the policy can be that maybe Forest Bureaus, after you bought dollars from the public, you cannot sell to the individual. Now, the policy of Bank of Ghana currently is that you have to produce an ID card. That is all. So, you walk into a Forest Bureau, produce an ID card, and you get $1. That policy is not strong enough. They should restrict them from selling the public to anybody. And that's why the money is getting into the hands of the black markets. So they can make a policy that, okay, now you can run your bank transactions, sell to the banks. So the Bank of Ghana control the rate from the bank. So you cannot buy the dollar at your own rate based on the demand.
Right.
So that is my...
right. Thank you very much. Oh, please, acknowledge him. Acknowledge him. So that's a very good contribution, his perspective anyway. But let's have you.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Dr. Jabir Ibrahim Mohammed from University of Professional Studies, Accra. I think a lot of issues have been said. I don't need to add more to what has been said, but there are some clear questions that I want the panelists to make. One of the issues I want to raise is that is it time for us to dollarize our economy? We need to pack all the cedi out and replace it with the dollars. Are we ready to retire our central bank or our monetary policy committee? There is a key issue. So I want Dr. Joshua to address that particular point.
Dr. Japoma.
Yes.
Right.
The next question is that we say money doesn't like noise. Do policy also like noise?
Right. Thank you very much. Money doesn't like noise. Does policy also like noise? That's well noted.
And the last thing I want to raise is about the issue of fiscal policy. All right. Dr. Edusai spoke highly about the control of our natural resources. We have the right fiscal policy regimes in place for the mining sector, for the oil sector, and even for our cocoa. These are key issues that we need to raise if we want to actually deal with the issue of the currency.
Right.
Because currency does not really like noise.
Right. Thank you very much. Point well noted. Let's have you. Now I'm giving you 1 minute each because of time. So,
my name is Rabiu Maudi. I'm from Jotel Forex Bureau.
Right.
Insightful conversation here. Just on the supply side as well, I think that we can also look at leadership, creating policy where we can make Ghana a hub for exports of natural talent. So we can, as Nigerians come here, Congolese come here, we can turn this place into an education, a health, and a tourism site where we have a lot of all these West Africans coming in. We can actually train teachers, health and professionals, and actually export them for foreign currency. That's one of them. The second one is Ghana is surrounded by French West Africa, and their currency is also very stable because of the influence of France. What can we do to increase sub-regional trade between Ghana and West Africa? A lot of currencies come from Togo, Nigeria, Burkina Faso.
Mm-hmm.
How is Bank of Ghana able to tie in these currencies that are coming in, to the pressures that are coming onto the cedi? We should be able to find a way so that we can tie our trade together. If we should find a way to actually even liaise or find a way, maybe even add the CFA as a second currency to the Ghanaian currency, that will, in the long term, also stabilize the cedi.
Right.
The third thing I want to speak about,
finally, though,
is yes, he spoke about the forex bureaus and their trade. I think that every forex bureau in Ghana, standing forex bureau, always sends reports to Bank of Ghana, whether you buy or you sell currency. There's the returns that we do to Bank of Ghana. Forex bureaus do not set the price and speak with black market. If we have a free exchange regime, it is driven by supply and demand. So forex bureaus do not call black market and ask
so
them.
That's a dispute too. A dispute too.
Yes.
You are
so
disputing what
if you want facts, yes.
Right.
Come and let's dialogue on
Very
that.
well noted. Thank you very much. Let's have the last question briefly though, and then let's be able to move on.
My name is Krampajo, and I'm a communications practitioner and a youth activist. I listened to Dr. Sarkodie's presentation very carefully, and the question that comes to mind is, what's the way forward? Because when we have our leaders or when we have scholars like Dr. Sarkodie himself bringing out good and brilliant ideas, and they do not listen because of political gains or what they want during elections or the promises they have made to people, what should we do? As a young man, if these policies are not being taken into consideration, it will one day affect us because definitely we would take the mantle from the older folks one day. And the first question the moderator asked was about leadership. And from the youth perspective, what I also want to ask is, who are we learning from? Thank you.
You are preparing to become a leader tomorrow. Anyway, so for the purposes of time, I'll give each and every one of you 1 minute. You take that to answer the questions that are directed to you, and then you sum up for us. Let me begin with you, Doc.
Yeah, thank you very much.
1 minute each.
I agree with this gentleman when he said that...
he's a PhD student.
Prof.
What's the name?
I agree with Prof. The fact that the rate is being determined by the black market. I'm a trader, I'm an importer. Each morning, when I want to have the rate, and I go there around 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, they will say that the rate is not yet in. I hope you know that. And that the rate will be communicated to you around 10 o'clock, 10:30. Who determines this rate? It doesn't come from Bank of Ghana. There is a cartel being run around this black market thing, and it's very dangerous. The Forex Bureau may not be part of that. That's why you are also fighting against the black marketeers. But let's be truthful to this point, the fact that they are controlling. And then the benchmark that we are talking about is illegality being perpetrated on us. The whole thing is a farce. It doesn't exist. If you go to Nigeria and say benchmark, nobody knows of it.
It's a local term here.
World Bank does not recognize it, WTO does not recognize it. It's only a benchmark, a discretionary policy by GRA that because they do not trust the values that we give, they overprice the items for us as if they have factories. And so they themselves give us the values, they have their own set of values, and they increase it. And so when we bring our goods, the real value is far less than this one. And so we went there, and then when we agitated, and then they reduced this overpriced benchmark by 50%.
Yes.
And so it came back to the normal. And so they said that they gave us benchmark. Now, as I'm speaking, sir, I have to let you know that the benchmark has completely been taken away from us. If you do not know, because the benchmark have been again increased. Yes, it has been increased over 60%.
Right. Let me come to you, Dr. Japoma, and there was a question to you. You answer that and you round up also for me.
Okay, so I think the question that was directed to me had to do with whether it was time for us to dollarize. And I think
spoke about the pegging too. He says he thinks,
he spoke about the pegging as well. I've given the reasons why I think the pegging is not going to be working for our economy. I think that if we have issues with regulation, we should tackle regulation. We shouldn't mix the two. We can do everything about regulation. And I see that the central bank is up and doing now. They are trying to regulate the forex bureaus and things. They can do more, and I expect them to do more. Dollarizing the economy is not going to be resolving our problems. I think that our problems are from the supply bottlenecks and then the tax exemptions and the other exemptions that are the retention policy, as we've all noted today. So we need to tackle those issues and stop hiding behind, dollarizing the economy. That cannot resolve our issues.
Edward, you believe government should listen, or leaders should listen? In 1 minute.
Well, I think the point was about policy, whether we don't, if money does not want noise, what about policy? Does it also want noise? You see, if you have leaders who make noise, they can't come and tell us that we should not make noise. Look, we are sitting here talking. Then someone will say somewhere and say that we are making noise. I mean, we are not making noise because if the issues are not there, we will not talk about them. Simplistic. So if money does not want noise, policy, they should act. Leaders, we want the outcome. We don't want talking. We are look, they have forced all Ghanaians to be talkatives now. But you see, the leader who talks too much does nothing. What we want is the outcomes. And what are the outcomes? The outcomes are disastrous. That is why we don't have food. That's why fuel prices are going up. We cannot do anything. And yet, you come to talk. We don't want talking. If they talk, we also talk. After all.
Respond to a certain question that was asked about.
Let me allow Doc Sarkodie to speak, then you end it for us.
But our research, that we did not take into consideration all those concessions. But obviously, you know that it will increase their earnings, and therefore, they might increase their profit. The non-official reporting of export, we have to regulate all those activities and make it official reporting.
You see, the African economy has so much of unofficial reports, even our GDP. The Bank of Ghana has no control over the inflow and outflow, 100% control, so that they can determine the rate. Reckless fiscal policies, the fiscal policy and the monetary policy must always be in equilibrium. So if the monetary policy is doing something and the fiscal policy is doing the other, that doesn't sit well with any economy at all. So there must be discipline. Right. Supply side, talent, tourism, I agree. Extractive sector, where do we start from? Review all the contracts. Review all the contracts and see if there's a way out. Other than that, then the subsequent discoveries, we must make sure that we have more than half. We have 50% share. Government should go and borrow, raise equity, whatever it is, raise funds, and make sure that you have 55% share. That is the mark there. Then the extractive sector, which one? The cost of production. Yes, of course, you have to share the cost of production. Is that what you're talking about in the extractive sector? Yes. Government must increase their stake to 55%, whatever they have to do. If they have to go and raise bonds, they have to equity, whatever it is, share the cost so that you can share the profit. NCNC, no contribution, no chop. And then let me end on the extractive sector. Right. I'm coming. Today and tomorrow, we must increase the royalties from 5% to 8% or 10%. Secondly, the extractive sector, the mining companies must pay their taxes in dollars. And then about the youth. When you look at the figures, you may get depression. But yes, it's true. Whenever I teach my students and I mention these figures to them, they look at me like that. Are we safe? I said, there is hope. The leaders who have come before us have failed us. But we have to have hope because we are still alive. We have years ahead of us to live. We have to change the narrative. I conclude by saying that Ghanaians must be in control of their resources. Thank you.
Right. And so that does it. That does it. 30 seconds. You're fine. You're fine. Chairman, with your permission, am I allowed to close now? Right. So thank you very much if you've been with us on Zoom, on YouTube, on Facebook, on DSTV, or on TV. And those of you here in the studio, we say a very thank you. We are not done yet, but the thank you is to keep you staying with us. We'll go for a quick break, maybe about 10 minutes break. And then after the 10 minutes, I have a number of guests that are lined up here. We'll be having, again, Dr. Sam Ankra still seated as the chairman. For the occasion, we'll be having Mr. Joe Jackson. He's someone you would want to listen to. It's good to acknowledge him. We'll be having Dr. Hazel Berad Amwa, and I'm sure you will enjoy her too. And Dr. Patrick Assuming will be joining us as well. So it's a packed day. You want to stick and stay with us. We'll be having the second segment of this show in the next 10 minutes. Good morning.
issues. She's a chartered insurer and a business leader with over 25 years work experience. Her work experience across 22 countries in Central and West Africa spans industries like FMCG, energy, and the financial sector, with areas of leadership, business, and HR specialization across all the HR practices. Dr. Hazel is a Henley certified coach from the UK and has a cross-cultural certification from the USA. She holds a Doctor of Business Administration, master's degree in bilingual translation, which is French and English, and a master's degree in organizational development. She's a visiting faculty professor at China European International Business School and used to be an adjunct lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. She has written several books, including Winning in the Jungle, People Factory, Dolphins Don't Swim in Lakes, Where Power Lies, Global Passport, and a co-author of Contemporary Business Imperatives in a Development Economy, which was edited by Professor Kweku Apiedu and Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. Dr. Hazel Amwa is a multiple award winner with awards including the Ghana Top 20 HR Professionals Award, the Ghana Woman Professional of the Year 2018, Africa HR Personality of the Year 2020, the Global Leadership Award 2021, Awardee of Excellence in Human Relations and Corporate Service in 2021, Female Changemaker in Leadership 2022, Female Changemaker in Business 2022, Outstanding and Influential Business Leadership 2022. Her forte is in engaging people to deliver business results, strategy development, and innovation.
Wow. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. John Kwache.
Dr. J.K. Kwache is a senior economist at the Institute of Economic Affairs Ghana, where he is actively involved in the Institute's research and advocacy work. Dr. Kwache has researched and published extensively on monetary, fiscal, and exchange rate policies, inflation, the cost of credit, foreign aid, debt sustainability, and Ghana's middle-income status. Dr. Kwache is responsible for the IEA's review and appraisal of the Ghanaian economy and government's budget and economic policy statements. Before joining the IEA, Dr. Kwache worked with the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C. as advisor to the executive director and as Ghana's representative at the IMF. He also worked with the Bank of Ghana and rose to the position of assistant director and deputy head of the research department. Dr. Kwache holds a PhD in economics from the University of Reading with concentration in open economy, macroeconomics, and development economics. MSc Economics degree from the University of Ghana, BSc degree from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and a qualifying certificate in law from the University of Ghana. Dr. Kwache has authored or co-authored several publications and articles on economic theory and policy.
Our final speaker, Dr. Patrick, assuming he will join via Zoom. The profile.
Dr. Patrick Assuming is an economist whose research interests lie in health economics and development economics. He received his PhD in economics from Columbia University and also holds a Bachelor of Arts Economics with Political Science from the University of Ghana and an MPhil in Development Studies from Cambridge University, UK. At the UGBS, Dr. Assuming teaches and supervises at both undergraduate and postgraduate levels. Dr. Assuming is also a fellow at the Center for Development Economics and Policy at Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs, and adjunct associate research scientist at the Mailman School of Public Health at Columbia University. His recent research uses randomized field interventions to evaluate the effects of Ghana's National Health Insurance Scheme on utilization of healthcare services and health outcomes. He has expertise in the design of field experiments, analysis of large data sets, and impact evaluation.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Sam Ankra, your second round of distinguished guests, your audience, your guests. Thank you.
Right, so Chairman, would have you, you set the tone for us for the first segment. It was a very good one, and we had a very fruitful session. Of course, we would have your permission to begin the second session, but again with some words, so we can move ahead.
Distinguished speakers, distinguished guests, I think we're enjoying ourselves today in unearthing what is actually affecting our city, our precious city. Prior to this dialogue, were kind of lost as to exactly what was happening. We attributed to many things external, but then through the first discussion, we realized there was policy issues and leadership or management issues that need to look into. Without further ado, I'll leave the panel to digress more into the situation and unearth more situation we can resolve it. And I hope you will all bear with us and enjoy the next section. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, your chairman, please do acknowledge him. Thank you very much, chairman. And we are happy to be here. Thank you very much as well, panel. And I am happy to be hosting you. Patrick, if you can hear me, kindly give us a wave so we can acknowledge you. Good afternoon to you, Patrick.
Hello, panelists and everybody.
Dr. Patrick Esuming, okay, well, so we can see you. We are here in the studio. We can see you. And we are happy to have you. Well, we'll come back to you shortly. But there is a question that we asked from the beginning of the very first segment, which was a takeout of what our chairman had put across in his statement, whether our problem economically is a problem of the leadership as regards the policy direction, as regards where we are moving as a country, and the regulation, the things that have to be done, the activities that have to be taken. I'll begin with the studio. I'll come back into the studio and begin from here. Dr. Hazel, I'll begin this one from you. You are an industry person, of course, an academic as well, and so you have quite an experience in both areas. For you, as a player in the industry, where you sit at a decision-making table, and where you are part of the reasons why, or reasons that we are supposed to be able to look at and restore the value of the city. Is it a problem of leadership for you? Good afternoon. It's afternoon.
Chairman and colleagues on the panel. I think it's a problem of leadership, and without being personal or going at any political party or person in power, I look at it from what leadership really is and what leadership seeks to achieve. Every leader seeks to achieve a vision. What is that vision? Our vision is as simple as was stated in 1957. Have a Ghana that's free, that progresses, and recently I heard the phrase Ghana beyond aid. And that's a very catchy vision for us to have as a country. The reason why I think our problem is a problem of leadership is because we have not been able to achieve any of these very well thought through, articulated visions over the decades. Now, how do we boast of leadership in a country where typically, to read some statistics, let me share this with you, we import 70% of our raw materials and our consumables, and this is up to $22 billion a year. How is that leadership? And I'm asking the question very openly. Beyond that, this is increasing year on year. Out of this $22.1 billion, $200 million a month is spent on rice, wheat, poultry. How is this leadership? Beyond that, the only time this dipped a bit was in COVID, for the obvious reason of closing the borders. Otherwise, it would have increased, because as it stands now, this is increasing by 33%. How is this leadership? To make it worse, we have basic items like sanitary ware being imported, and we spend $400 million importing sanitary ware from UAE, Spain, Italy, and other parts of Europe. How, again, is this leadership? The shocking one for me is the fact that every month we import oil products to the tune of $450 million. And the Bank of Ghana has to provide $120 million out of this amount to service this. So we're actually even depleting our reserves. And then our other banks in Ghana have to provide the $33 million, which is not even available. So we have to fall on the black market. Where is the vision in there in terms of leadership? Where is the vision of Ghana beyond aid? Why do we have to rely so much on imports when we have a very rich economy, when we have a very rich country? Anytime I drive across Ghana, I feel so sad. There is so much rich land. There is so much opportunity for us to grow what we eat and even export some to even improve, our supply when it comes to our exports. Because the issue on the Ghana cedi now is one of pressure on demand when it comes to the heightened demand of the dollar. The point where, if you look at the statistics now, cost of living has increased exponentially. Now, in my business, I'm obliged to help pay people's salaries, and it's biting my business, because how do I look at a simple employee and say I'm giving them X amount of salary increase when inflation year to date is more than 60%? Which business in Ghana, both private and public, has given 60% salary increase? Well, perhaps I'm not aware of this, but it's not in the open market for us to divulge that information. So we really have a strong leadership problem. Beyond that, what shocks me more is all these problems that have been heightened and complained about by the populace. Where has there been a proper dialogue for problem solving? And we have the problems solved or solutions given, where is the implementation? And if some of them are being implemented, where is the monitoring? And where is the evaluation for effectiveness to be sure that the right medicine is given to the right disease? Excuse my French. So there is a serious disconnect, and once there is no connection between the vision and what's happening currently, there is no leadership. There could be something else, but no leadership. So beyond that, if you look at other statistics, for example, and I'm sure my colleagues on the panel will share that, the recent assessment of our credit profile in this country shows that we are going lower and lower and lower. And if there's leadership, anytime there's deterioration, it is halted and it is repaired for another takeoff. 3 bodies have done the assessment of Ghana: S&P, Moody, and Fitch. And they use ratings such as AAA, DDD to rate, our debt situation. We have dropped from a B- to a D. A D in any academic rating is close to a failure. We dropped from a B to a D, when the highest rating is a AAA. So as a country, I'm not sure we have leadership. But to also swing leadership as a discussion across the entire population, it doesn't just rest with those who are the helm of affairs. How do we as Ghanaians also contribute leadership in our day-to-day practices, in our discipline, to help build our country? In our communities, what are our MPs doing? What are our chiefs doing? What are our community leaders doing? What are our family heads doing? So the leadership syndrome in Ghana is cutting across the top to every Ghanaian in this economy. That's my take at the moment.
So I'm sure you want to acknowledge. She raises very, very important points. And this is a point that I had been wondering. I'm sure, Mr. Jackson, you may want to touch on it, because you pay salaries, you pay people. That from the beginning of this year, even if you are receiving 5,000 Ghana cedis, by no action of yours, by no fault of yours, by no activity of yours, your value of the 5,000 Ghana cedis, which probably you were boasting about previously, if in this economy you are receiving 5,000, you would see yourself as a big man. But by no fault of yours, by now your value can't buy anything. The value has come down so much that you are virtually like somebody who is receiving 1,000 Ghana cedis. You technically cannot buy anything. Is it a problem of leadership from where you said?
Oh, thank you very much. And really, if we look at what really occurred, why are we here? Right? We're here because from 2017 onwards, life was good. And we just we sold Ghanaian debt in cedis to foreigners in dollars. And why do I say life was good? Life was good because they brought in dollars. So it kept our cedi stable. At the same time, because the government was not borrowing from us locally, the interest rates were stable. Actually, we were declining, and we had historically low rates at the end of last year. So it was good. But what do? We borrowed, and we borrowed, and we borrowed because it was available. And I call the Eurobond market the single biggest disaster that happened to emerging countries in Africa. Because what did we do? We just borrowed. People give us the money. They give us when we want any money, and they didn't, there was no eye out to how we spent the money. So what did we do? We spent the money on consumption, on nice things, right? And it's easy for us to say, Mr. Jackson, how can you sit there and say free SHS is bad? Well, from where I sit, if I take 7-year borrowed money, and in the first 3 years, the student is in SHS, the next 4 years he's in the university, the next year he's in he's doing national service, right? That's 8 years. So assuming he even gets a job, by the time the money is due, he's not a productive member of society. And I could go on. We went on a spending binge. We created a public sector that we just threw money at them. And it went on and on. In truth, all that happened was, one day, somebody looked at your numbers and your budget, and it's very clear. By the time you pay salaries, by the time you pay, what do you call it? You pay interest on your debt, it's over 100%. At that point, the person says, hello, hi, Ghana, you can't pay your debt, oh. I'm going to downgrade you. So they proceed to downgrade. Now, the difference between the money we were receiving and foreign direct investment in a certain way, if you put a factory and you are happy, you can't carry the factory away. But if you brought dollars to buy CD debt, you can wake up one day and say, you know what, it's okay. Ghana is messed up. It's fine. I take my money out. So what happened? If you notice, we were degraded in February. The quality of our debt was degraded in February. By March, the CD started taking a dive. And since then, it's been on a rapid slide to nowhere. It's caught fire. What did they do? They just dumped the CD and bought dollar and moved the money out. Then those of us who were here started saying, hey, is this what is happening? That I woke up one day in January, my 5,000 CD salary could buy me almost $1,000. By the time we hit somewhere in the middle of the year, it can barely buy me $500, right? So what do? After all, what is our currency? What is the CD? It is just faith. It is just trust. That if I give you 100 CDs, you will exchange it for 100 CDs of goods when I need it. That paper is just linen. It's nothing. And when the foreigners, first of all, said, Ghana is toxic, I'm taking my money out. Then those of us here saw what was happening. Nobody wanted to take a CD position anymore. None of us did. Because the CD has lost its role as a store of value. Right? And when that happened, of course, everybody moved out. And as a country, we import everything. That is not so wrong, so long as you export enough to match it. There's nothing wrong with importing. There's actually nothing. In fact, importation is good in the sense that when you import, you actually benefit your population with lower priced items. When people complain about a China mall or anything like that, my response is, the decision to buy is not a patriotic decision. It's a decision made from my pocket. Buying made in Ghana is all nice and nice, highfalutin issue. But when I'm faced with reality, I buy from the lowest cost to my pocket. All that has happened is that what we thought we should get and what we are getting, the market has done a correction. The market says, you're not worth it anymore. Now who caused them? Leadership. Known about this for years. We've warned about this for years. Leadership sat down, and here it's not even about the current leadership. It goes way back. After our exciting times when we went through HIPIC, one would have thought we would have learnt our lesson. Then we found oil. Then life was good, wasn't it? All of us were enjoying nice big 4x4s, holidays abroad. Children go to school abroad. If I'm sick, I go abroad. If I don't like the way my big stomach looks, I go abroad and I get a stomach fix. And we could go on and on and on. We'd stop living within our means. Right. All the world has told us is that now, what we thought we would get is not what we're getting. Right. It's a failure of leadership. This could have been corrected 6 years ago, gradually. Mm-hmm. This could have been corrected, but no, that explosive mix of partisan politics, populist politics, and corruption is what has ended up here today.
I will come back to you on the same point when we start talking about the fall of the city itself. But let me quickly go and see Dr. Patrick on Zoom. And before I come back to Dr. Kwachi here in the studio. Dr. Patrick, we're asking a very basic question, whether the issues we are currently facing as an economy is born out, of course, some are structural, and we are not talking about just today. We'll come back to today, the fall of the city. But as an economy, our problem, is it born out of bad leadership?
Good afternoon again. So, it has to be bad leadership when you have identified the problem since independence, and for all these years, you still have not been able to solve the problem. So clearly, leadership is a big part. The failure of leadership is a big part of where we are. But in addition to the fact that we have refused to restructure our economy from independence, as Dr. Joe Jackson said, I want to share some small data from the Bank of Ghana.
Right, that's fine. That's fine.
To show us what has happened. So just a second. I think I want some sharing. Right. Okay. So what has happened in the last? Okay, great. So this is data about what our current account has looked at since 2014. So we have the blue line being our trade balance. This is the difference between our export of merchandise, physical goods, and then our imports. And then we do have the current account. So the balance of payment is broken into mainly the current account and the capital and financial account. So if you look at the trade balance, in terms of the difference between merchandise exports and imports, you see that, we turned a corner from 2017. Now, we have to note that we turned this corner because in 2017, new oil fields came on stream. So the reason why we moved from a deficit to a surplus was because we started doing new oil. And because we are exporting a lot of all the oil, you see that we turn from a deficit to a surplus. But what didn't happen is that it didn't translate into a complete overhaul of our current account. Now we add other items to the trade balance to get the current account. So we have the balance on services. So when we use foreign shipping lines, or we take foreign vacations, or we patronize all foreign services, that goes there. That's another part. Then when we service our loans, so when we are taking a loan, at the time we are taking a loan, it won't sit in our current account. But when we are paying interest on it, when we are paying any return on any asset, that's where it's going. So you see that even though there was a sharp upturn in our current account, our trade balance, the current account marginally improved and then just stayed there and has deteriorated since the COVID. Now, let me show a second graph that shows why that has been. And then that also speaks to the point that Mr. Joe Jackson said.
Mm-hmm.
So here, I'm showing the same information, but I've now added the capital and financial account. And you notice that from 2017 again, we see a huge upturn in the capital and financial account. And a lot of that is, so part of it is foreign direct investment, but another part of that is that we have been borrowing a lot. So you see that from 2017 up to, before then, you see we were sometimes even in the deficit. But mostly since then, you see that we've been always, and the numbers, the peaks is always rising. So we had one peak in 17, 19, and 21. But what has happened this year is following the downgrade. For the first time in a long time, you see that we are now up to the middle of this year. We are now having a negative because as Joe Jackson was saying, the foreign investors have decided that it's no longer worth putting their funds in Ghana. Now, a lot of this didn't happen by accident. And again, another aspect of the leadership problem we have is something that the Bank of Ghana itself did in around about 2016. So for a long time, Ghana didn't used to allow foreigners to participate in relatively shorter term CD-denominated bonds. So if we issue CD bonds and foreigners wanted to depart, it has to have maturity of 3 years or above. But right about 2016, the Bank of Ghana changed that policy. I think that was the last time we had such major CD crisis. And they decided that no, now foreigners can buy shorter term CD denominated bonds. And unfortunately, at that time, well, in the immediate term, obviously that's bringing us more dollars, so we are happy. But when they were doing that, the Economist Intelligence Unit had written an article where they cautioned that if you go ahead with this, you are going to be exposed to additional risk of capital flow reversals and its impact on the real economy. The powers that be at the Bank of Ghana didn't pay heed, and they went ahead. So while times were good, we didn't see, we felt that it was fine, but now it's come to bite us. Now that the U.S. Federal Reserve has decided to jack up the rate to unprecedented levels, and we have no means of stopping anybody. So it means that what has happened is that we have done this to ourselves. We did something for short-term gain, and it has come back to bite us.
Exactly.
So in addition to the fact that we have refused to address the structural challenges of the Ghanaian economy, that ensures that we are always importing manufactured items and exporting primary products. One of the things about that is that primary products, the terms of trade is always tilted against it because there are more fluctuations in the prices of primary exports than manufactured imports. So manufactured imports, on average, their prices tend to go up, while for primary products, the items tend to go down. Or at least you do see some occasional spikes, but the general trend is that the terms of trade is tilted against that. What that means is that we've had several years where we've refused to fix this problem, and we have added on. We have added on by doing policies that has ensured that the Ghanaian economy is overly exposed to foreign money. So in time past, we were overly exposed to foreign goods and services. Now we have added on. So the extent of our sensitivity to the global economic environment has just gone through the roof. So unless we take measures to reverse this, I'm afraid that the currency will not know any peace. So that would be my initial comment.
Right. Thank you very much on that one with the data and the figures that you have given. I mean, Mr. Joe Jackson breaks it as we have borrowed and borrowed and borrowed from 2017. So we went in for the short-term gains and we are suffering in the long term. Let me come to you in the studio now. Dr. John Kwachi, on your initial comments, whether it's a leadership problem, the current issues that we have. You have been a member of the MPC. In fact, I think one of the very long-standing members until recently.
I was a member for 10 years.
For 10 years, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. I believe that, a major part of our problems, it's not just the CD, with respect to the CD, but our economic problems in general. I would say they have to do with leadership or lack of it. We have lacked the kind of visionary leadership that, Kwame Nkrumah, for instance, represented. So, the problem that we have, especially with the CD, it did not start, yesterday. Some of us have done research, a lot of research, and written a lot about the exchange rate and all that. If I take you back to just, 1983, we had a fixed exchange rate regime just before 1983. And then I remember the exchange rate then was 2.75 cedis equals $1. That was a fixed exchange rate regime. Then under the process of economic liberalization that we adopted, and then we introduced the flexible exchange rate regime, okay? So the CD continued to slide, only that from time to time, Bank of Ghana will intervene, to stabilize it, but for short periods of time, and then the depreciation will continue. So if you are going by the old CD, from 1983, the exchange rate was 2.75 cedis to the dollar. Today, if I project it to today, let's say 13. Now, 13 is 130,000 of the old.
Yes.
So I'm saying that from 1983 to today, we have moved from 2.75 cedis to the dollar to 130,000 old cedis to the dollar. We don't have a currency anymore. If I calculate the percentage depreciation, it will be, I have it here, 99.9997 or something. Okay? Depreciation.
Of the city?
Yes. Even if you take it from the time that we redenominated, okay, when we created this new, artificial high-value currency called Kufuor dollar or something that we equated with the dollar, okay? Even if you take it from there, 2007, that is 1-to-1, and today we are talking about 1-to-13, okay? That's how we have moved. So the city has been depreciating forever. Of course, we've been talking about the structure of the economy. Certainly that's a major part. We export primary products. We don't get enough value for it. We import virtually everything, okay? But we should also be talking about, even if you have that structure, you can manage the situation, okay? Now, Togo has the same economic structure as ours. In fact, we are even a more developed, advanced country than Togo. Why is it that the CFA is a strong currency, okay? By the way, let me distinguish between a strong currency and a high value currency. Okay, because sometimes our politicians want to confuse us, by saying, I heard somebody say, Ghana's currency is the third strongest in Africa. That cannot be true. Okay, it has the third highest value. Because as for value, you can create it artificially. Today, we can knock off 2 zeros or 1 zero from the CD and create a higher value currency. But whether it will be stable over time is what determines whether it's strong or not, okay? So we will come to, solutions, because that is where we should be going to. And I have, from my experience, I have a lot to say about that.
I'll take that from you. So you can just go there, because right from where you are, we're moving straight into solutions. So I'm starting that round with you.
Okay, so I've talked about the structure of the economy.
Which is the problem for you?
We haven't transformed the economy. It's still a Gettysburg colonial.
Since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, 1992.
That's part of the problem.
Okay.
And then the management of the exchange rate, the foreign exchange market also. That's why I use Togo as an example. Okay. Now, I've cited a number of countries here. Do we know why the US has a strong currency? It is because it is an industrialized economy. Okay. Now, do we know why Malaysia has a relatively strong currency? It's an emerging market country which is fairly industrialized. Okay. Now, do we understand why Hong Kong has a strong currency? It is because well, it's fairly industrialized, but they have something called a currency board. I would have wished that my colleagues, from Legon, you were earlier on their panel, they should have been here. You see, because we are all economists. The difference between us who are in industry and them who are teaching is that sometimes their approach is so theoretical. Do you get me? So I remember the lady, I don't know her name.
Dr. Japomo.
Yeah, dismissing offhand a currency board or a peg and all that. Look, where we are, I can predict that this currency, we can stabilize it for just a short period of time. The slide will continue.
So you think we need a currency board? Is that the position?
Not specifically. I don't want to jump right into a currency board because we can move progressively towards one, without adopting a full-blown currency board, okay? Now, the currency board, essentially, the features are that they peg the currency to an anchor currency, okay? And then, they cover or back the currency wholly, 100% with foreign exchange. So if we are able to adopt that, it means that every CD that is in the system has a foreign exchange backing, okay? So if you have CDs and you take it to your bank, to buy foreign exchange, they can provide it for you because they have a backing there. Do you get me? Now, in the Bank of Ghana's Act currently, there's a provision there that says the fiduciary issue should not exceed 60%. The fiduciary issue is the part of the currency that is not covered by foreign exchange. Bank of Ghana holds government securities and so on. So that should not exceed 60%. It means the non-fiduciary issue is just 40%. Okay? So it means that Bank of Ghana, the currency that they have issued, they are backing it only 40% with foreign exchange. Do you get me?
I get it.
And that is why, when we go, importers and everybody go demanding foreign exchange with our CDs, they can provide it all. So I would recommend that we move progressively. We move
to a currency board.
Not a full-blown one, but I'll move the 40% cover to 60,
maybe 60%,
maybe
80%,
and then exactly. And then also, fiscal policy and monetary policy have been very loose in this country. If you have a currency board or a peg or even a monetary union like the safer countries, you cannot do that. You can't lend. Bank of Ghana, the central bank cannot lend anyhow to government. Do you get me? Now, in the Bank of Ghana Act, there's a limit, a ceiling for the Bank of Ghana's lending to government. It is said to be 5% of last year's revenue. Okay. Now, in the mid-year review of the budget, the minister announced to us, well, it is in the budget, that Bank of Ghana had advanced 22 billion to government. Okay? Now, the 5%, I worked out the 5% limit.
And it was beyond the 5%.
Last year's revenue was 70 billion. 5% of it is 3.5. So it means Bank of Ghana should not exceed 3.5 billion lending to government. But we heard about 22 billion. Okay? Now, when you do that, you must know that you are injecting a lot of CD liquidity into the economy, which is not backed by foreign exchange. And that's the CDs will be used to chase foreign exchange. Do you get me? And that is why, it also causes inflation and all that. So then you turn around going to, mop it up with raising the policy rate and all that. It is counterproductive. You don't do that.
So Dr. John Kwachi is making very, very, very important points. And it's about the solutions. He says we should be graduating towards not a full-blown currency board. However, the support of the exchange should move from 40 to 60, 70, 80, and thereabouts. I'll be coming to you, Mr. Jackson, but kindly indulge me. Let me take a quick break. When I'm back, I'll come to you on the solutions for the devaluation of the city. Stay with us.
For years, they have made millions from your money and giving you coins. They make you believe it's a good deal. They have offered you security for your money and make it look like they're doing you a favor. You are doing them a favor. Because you can have security and make so much more on your money at the same time. That is what the Dalex Swift is offering over 100,000 customers today. Wake up.
Behind Malcolm.
You're welcome back from the break if you're watching us online or on TV, and you're welcome back as well, those of you here in the studio. I was going to you, Mr. Jackson, and even behind the screens, you've been making some points about the solution, but kindly indulge me, 30 seconds you wanted to make a point. Yes, 30 seconds.
It just escaped me, because I've heard it said in Ghana here that Ghanaians have an attitude and they are the problem. The Ghanaian doesn't have any problem. It's our leaders who have the problem. And the problem we have in this country, what I've been calling party capture. The MPP and NDC, they capture our leaders. And they do things that are of interest, and are in the interest of their parties instead of the nation. Right. That's our problem.
Right. Mr. Jackson, problems to the challenge, solutions to the problems we have as a country, and especially on the city.
Now, one of the things is that if we've diagnosed the solution, the problem as that of confidence and trust, then the first stop, right, the immediate short-term question is that how do we restore confidence and trust? Now, confidence and trust will come from how we behave in the Ministry of Finance, or what you call the fiscal actions. At this moment, right, there's only a few ways to restore confidence, right? We've got to cut expenditure. We've got to cut expenditure. Now, unfortunately, remember that two line items, if you take salaries and you take the interest, the debt service, the interest payments, is over 100% already. So to cut expenditure, we have a choice. We either cut salaries or we cut the debt service. That is why we have to take the issue of domestic debt restructuring seriously. And that is why the IMF will tell you that if you don't do that, I can't cut you a deal. Because truly, we are broke. We've lifted up our hands and said, we can't pay. So we've got the immediate thing is get that debt restructuring negotiated. Will it be fair? No. Will it be painful? Yes. Will it create problems for across all sectors, from the financial sector to, the insurance, the pension companies, and individuals? Everybody will suffer. And don't think you won't suffer. If you have a pension, you will suffer. You may not have treasury bills directly, but you have a pension, and that pension will be cut because the pension company is by law mandated to have some bills and bonds. The immediate solution is to do that, right? Unfortunately, what is stopping us from doing that properly is that there's a trust gap between us and the government. We don't believe that the government is prepared to share in our pain, is prepared to do the right thing. So start by you, this government, showing that you can cut the size of government. Not because the size of government will make any serious dent into the expenditure, but that will demonstrate to the public that you are prepared to share in the pain. Cut the size of government. Côte d'Ivoire, nowhere near as dire a situation as this. Cut their ministers who were in excess of 50 to 31. Why are we still talking about 80 plus ministers? Why are we still talking about deputies? And it's not just the ministers, it's the infrastructure that keeps those ministers in place. The cars, the secretaries, and so the offices, the special aids, and I could go on and on. Take that pain, show that you are prepared to take up. Then come and negotiate that reduction in the interest payments. And there are several ways we could do that, and could do that without causing as much pain. As for the pain, it will be there. As for being unfair, it's unfair because think about it. All my crime was that I saved my money and lent some to the government. And because of that, I who took the reduction in standard of living to save money, I'm going to suffer. My punishment is that
you're suffering for saving your money with government.
I'll save giving the money. But and we could talk about that for another hour. But the key thing is you've got to cut expenditure.
Right.
There's no way out of this. When you cut expenditure, then we can start to negotiate how we're going to get out of it. Now, remember that the medium and long-term solution is that, like we've been saying before I went to Form 1, before I was in the university and was being tutored, change the structure of this economy. We know what to do. We can't be exporters of primary goods and importers of everything. We've got to either substitute, encourage exports so that we make more money. And even the little money we have, you heard Dr. Sarkod here. He says, what we even export, we don't own it. So the money goes elsewhere. We've got to fix all those things. Once you fix them, life will start to come back to normal.
Right.
But normal is not going to be, normal is never going to be 6-1. The new normal may be anywhere which we can't tell sitting here because the actions have not even started.
Right. Thank you very much. You want to acknowledge him for the submission as well. Let me now come to you on same point, solutions. Dr. Hazel, from where you sit, what do you think are the solutions to the depreciation of the value currently?
Government demonstrates the confidence, demonstrates ability to generate revenue internally. That's very important. The second point is actually generating revenue internally, domestic revenue. The third point is now how do we modernize agriculture and how do you move to industrialize as a country. 1D1F is a fantastic program. How effective has that been in terms of government supporting 1D1F through modernizing agriculture, making us plan for food and jobs? They have to be realistic things, not just slogans or party gimmicks that are being given to people. These are real issues that would help us have higher employment in the country, therefore reducing crime as well, and generating local funds to fund the economy. So those are the humble points I want to submit to this particular solution.
Right, thank you very much. We have a video from I think the Pharmacy Council or so, but these are people who have expressed concerns about the economy. We'll play that, and then I'll come to you, Chairman, for your point as well. When we went to the break, somebody had made a comment that you have not spoken about the political issues. I had said that we are not getting into politics, but of course, there is political economy, and the fact that the finance minister has to be sacked by the president. Nobody has spoken about it, and moderator you haven't asked about it as well. And the person was making the point of signaling in economics, where if the finance minister is sacked, it will signal investors in the economy who are repatriating their money or who are losing confidence, as Mr. Joe Jackson would say, to either keep their monies in the system or bring them back. I don't know whether that will work or whether that's a good point to raise, but as an economist, I'll put that to you, Mr. Chairman. So let's have the videos and we'll come back to our chairman for his comments.
We have gone to IMF 17 times. We still haven't learned anything from IMF. There will be haircuts. The economic management team has supervised our CD to become the worst performing CD in the country, in the world. What do you think they should be doing? I mean, the call is right. But yes, it should be dissolved. But former President Mahama said President Akufo-Addo should take over. I don't believe President Akufo-Addo should take over. I believe there are better people who can do better than the economy.
Why do you think he should not take over?
No, he can't take over. He has taken over the country and already we are in this mess. I have already proposed those solutions. I will tell him that the economy is not going well. I will tell him that produce and refine your own oil in your country. I will tell him that increase your economic activities by farming, having large-scale farms for people to produce farm in this country, harvest, and we consume what we produce and produce what we consume. I will tell him that to stop the dollarization of dollars in this country, to stop the trading of forex bureaus in this country, I will tell him to stop and ban all forex accounts in this country. I will tell him to cut down on the activities of the people who are into dollars. He should just, I'll tell him a whole lot of things.
Do you think the president can fix the economy before 2024? Do you see that?
The president is already complaining that the economy is in crisis and needs everybody's support. The president has spent 6 years. He cannot fix it in 6 years. Do you think he can fix it in 2 years?
Some will use the dollar, they will change the local currency into dollar and store. Some will buy land, some will hoard commodities, etc. So that is fueling inflation and also fueling the depreciation of the exchange rate. When the exchange rate depreciates, it affects inflation because we are import-dependent country. Everything is hooked to the dollar. Even your import duty is pegged to the dollar. So as soon as there's a depreciation, it reflects on the market. So one area will be to address the exchange rate or the shortage of foreign currency. It's not just about pumping in more dollars, but also ensuring that what you put in stays within. Because we have very porous borders where people flying in and out, exchange and take it out. We also have a system where there's a black market that is very rife. They are very powerful, very strong now. So whatever you put in, they find a way of getting it and then selling it at very high prices. I recall when we were practicing the fixed exchange rate system in the 70s and early 80s, the dollar was pegged at 2.75 cedis to the dollar. The black market was selling at 90 cedis to a dollar. You saw the margin. So if we don't do something about it, we'll get back to those era where the black market will sell dollars at very exorbitant prices because there is lack of regulation.
Well, so you saw the last one that we played, Professor Peter Kote from ISA at the University of Ghana, speaking about some of the issues. And of course, you saw a presidential candidate at the time, a politician also speaking about what he would say to the president if he met him today. But let me go to Zoom. We still have Dr. Asumin there. Let's ask him about his solutions. He had given us some data early on about the problems we have in the country. Doc, if you can hear me, what are the solutions you would proffer practically, briefly?
So thank you very much. I think we've already heard some of the solutions already. We've heard about, the longer term, the need to restructure the economy. And then we've also heard about, fixing government finances, ensuring that we bring the deficit and the debt under some control. I think we need also institutional reforms and around, the way we handle the currency. So I think part of that is just, it's just too easy for anybody who wants to buy foreign currency to buy foreign currency. So the speculation itself, really, it has some economic logic. There's a reason why people will speculate that the currency will depreciate and want to hold the dollar. But the fact that the system is so loose and anybody can get dollars also adds to the ease with which people hold dollars. So I think part of that is when we say that, nobody should quote in foreign currency, it should mean nobody should quote in foreign currency. It shouldn't start with government agencies themselves quoting in foreign currency and then using that one to, as a basis for conducting business with private individuals. It's all well and good for the Bank of Ghana to go around and arrest players in the black market. But, the whole arrangement about the ease of acquiring foreign currency has to change. We have to tighten the regulations. If you don't have any business acquiring, or if you cannot demonstrate a proper and legitimate cause for acquiring dollars, we should make it very difficult for you to acquire the dollars. So that part is there. That is not going to fundamentally change the underlying value of the currency, but it helps, especially when in the last few weeks where the activities of speculators have become very prominent. I think that aspect, it will help in some sense. But, I have to say that all the solutions that we are proposing has been heard before. And our political leaders, at least at some point, they knew them. I don't know if at different points in time, they don't know them again or they forget what the solutions were. Because when you read what people write in their party manifestos, they make sense. When people put programs together when they are outside of power, they make sense. So we have to ask, why is it that people have the ideas and then when they get into power, something else changes? So, we can go over the solutions again and again and again and again. But there's a political economy aspect as to why people who say the right things when they are not in power do complete opposite when they are in power. So I think that part has to be addressed. We can go ahead and list the structural transformation, the line by line things that we can do, and so on and so forth. I think one aspect that I want to touch on, especially regarding the budget, is that we have to understand that the fiscal policy is a tool for ensuring the sanity in public finances, but it is also a tool, a very powerful tool for engineering growth and redirecting and restructuring the economy. So if you talk about the power of public procurement, so we've heard politicians and our leaders say, oh, we should patronize made in Ghana. We should patronize made in Ghana. That is good, all well and good. But you see, you and I, when we work and we are paid and we go to the market and we want to buy, for people who have been socialized all our lives, feel that what is Ghanaian is inferior and what is foreign is superior, it is a much harder argument to tell us that we should buy made in Ghana. First of all, especially when the person who is telling you is doing the opposite, by the way. But if what we have all contributed to in terms of taxes, we say, oh, because we want to support Ghanaian firms, we are going to use the power of public procurement to support Ghanaian businesses in some area, of course, ensuring that they are also meeting strict conditions and then terms to continue enjoying. That one is a more powerful force than just going on air and telling everybody that we should buy made in Ghana.
Right.
So I think while we are thinking about that, we shouldn't only think about using the fiscal policy to balance the books. Balancing the books is important. Making sure that sanity is important. but there's also a very powerful tool for redirecting where we want the economy to go.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Doc. So I'll come back to the studio here, and I'll speak to Chairman briefly, and I'll go for a quick video. So, Chairman, if you're ready, I put up a question to you, plus, of course, that will not be your concluding remarks, because you would round up the entire show for us. So, briefly touch on that point. I'll go for the video and come back to the studio for some questions, and then, I'll now be able to round up. Yes, no, but please, on the question that I put up to you.
Well, financial markets responds to positive information. And basically what we're doing is we're selling future. If there are issues like what we're going through, it's important that you show that you've identified the problem and there's a plan to solve the problem. And most of the time, the plan to solve these problems involve change of personnel, because that gives confidence to the market. If it's the same old people doing the same old things, what you are telling the market is we don't even know what it's about and we're not correcting our issues. So change of personnel is very, very important. You realize, even in football, as soon as a team starts going down, the coach is sacked. It's not that the coach is terribly bad. It's because they want to say something to the market or to the supporters of the team that we've identified the problem and we're solving. Similarly, in the financial markets, they respond to this kind of information. So if the market is going down, it's plummeting as we're seeing, currency is depreciating, inflation is going high, and all these things are happening, it's prudent to look into the resources and change personnel just to keep the market confident.
Thank you very much. You want to give him... I am saying you want to acknowledge him because of the way he's been able to run away from mentioning the specific name, but making reference to the entire reshuffle that people are calling for in government. Mr. Ebua, kindly indulge me. Let me go for a quick break. When I come back, I'm coming for the Q&A session, but Mr. Ebua is here. I would allow him to make his commentary before I ask the question. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
For years, they have made millions from your money and giving you coins. They make you believe it's a good deal. They have offered you security for your money to make it look like they're doing you a favor. You are doing them a favor. Because you can have security and make so much more on your money at the same time. That is what the Daylex Swift is offering over 100,000 customers today. Wake up.
Right, you're welcome back from the break if you are watching us online, and of course, those of you here in the studio as well, you're welcome back. So we are in the final segment of the series for this afternoon, and let me give you, Mr. Ebua, the opportunity to speak. Mr. Eboa is a politician. Those of you who don't know him, he's come up as an independent presidential candidate in the country before. I don't know whether he will still be standing for 2024, but he's a great voice in the country. We're in the Q&A session. Whilst he makes a submission, if you have any question, you would make it up to the mic for me. I'll take, I think, up to 3 questions because I have only 10 minutes to round up. But the floor is yours now, Mr. Eboa.
Almost 2012, I'm coming.
2024?
Yes.
You are coming?
Yeah, 2024. I just want us to think about some issues.
Right.
First and foremost, the problem that we have, to me, is systemic, not leadership. A system that we've created for ourselves that is controlling all of us, backed by laws and constitution. Whoever that you put as a leader who is supposed to follow these laws and regulations will be bound to fail. And so we need to look at the system that we will establish that can enhance leadership to also achieve. And we should also understand that as a nation, we've not yet tackled our political infrastructure. Normally, when we talk about politics, we normally think about political party. Oh, Joy is a politician. But to break politics down, politics is a process of decision-making that influences human beings and their environment. Just citing as an example, that doctor who's on Zoom decided not to be in the studio. He has saved some cost. I'm here. At least I picked Trotro, so I've spent some money. And so this decision between the two of us, he's making some saving. The other thing that we need to also understand is the world system. Now we are talking about the dollar, that America can just print. But that dollar is seen as a commodity just like gold. Before you trade internationally, you need to use your currency to buy this dollar before you be able to. So how can you compete with America? America is not strong as an economy because of its industrialization alone. It's because of how they've outsmarted the world in their decision making, in making sure that they can even sanction you by using the SWIFT system. And so we need to understand some of these things. And I think from my engineering point of view, I'm not an economist. They say that everything is by demand and supply. And depending on how it's skewed, you can create it to your advantage. Now, if you really want to resolve issues of the forest that we're talking about, I just want to use that as an example. We need to make sure that its demand is decreased in our country. First and foremost, just as I will agree with Ayariga when I was listening to him, and that is what I've said often and often. We need to close all the forest accounts. We have to make sure that no individual can hold dollar to the bank for an exchange. If you set up a period, and then it comes out that if you are holding dollar, you don't have anywhere to sell it. Do you think that people would want to hold dollars? We have to make sure that if you are going outside, we have a link at airport, depending on your boarding pass, then whatever amount that you need to spend outside could be given to you after your boarding pass. If we tend to put in some of these measures in place, it will reduce the demand of the dollar in our country. I do agree with them when they talk about their structural causes, and some of them I do not want to delve deeper into it. But one of the things that I would suggest to the economic experts is that we need to create system, what I term as systems economic development. The way we will handle the extractive industry, how we will tax them, and all of that, to me, should be different from the way we will tax the Abosiokai, because they have different economics and markets. You have someone, the extractive industry, they sell their products outside, right, can bring in foreign. unlike Dabosiokai, who has to work within the CD environment and get dollar to import. And so if I'm government, I will not cut things across. The way I will support particular markets in the economy would have to be different, and the tax system. And if we begin to develop this, what I term as systems economic, it will really enhance all the things that we've talked about.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jacob Osei. Niai, I would want you to make, you have some comments. Can you take the mic? Economic Fighters League.
Yes, sir.
Please, you have the floor.
Right. Greetings to everyone in here. I'd like to just draw our attention to certain things that have been going on with the loans we've been taking from the IMF and the World Bank. And the case in point here would be 3 loans we took from the World Bank in 2009. Is anyone here familiar with the Letter of Development Policy?
The
Letter of Development Policy.
Letter of Development Policy.
All right, interesting. Yes. So LDPS. Chairman is the chairman. So what happens is when we're taking loans from the IMF and the World Bank, there are some conditionalities that come with the loan. Unfortunately, most of the conditions are not put in the loan document. They issue out a separate letter, which is a Letter of Development Policy, where they include these conditions. So it means anyone who takes the loan document will not see the conditions that have been attached to it. So the problem we're discussing today is not just a problem of leadership, but then it borders on criminality. This is illegal. The Iroda Charter came out with certain recommendations and said it was unlawful to do such things. Indeed, the basic laws of contract says you don't have to have undisclosed conditions to the loan. Everything has to be spelled out, right? So if we are taking loans from certain people and they are adding undisclosed conditions to those loans, it means all the loans we've taken so far are fraudulent. If you permit me with a few minutes, I'll just go through the loan I'm talking about.
We have just about 2 minutes. So
I'll wrap up quickly. Right. So in 2009, the World Bank approved a total of $535 million to government, and it came in 3 loans. The first one was the second Natural Resources and Environmental Governance Development Policy Operation. That was $10 million. There was a transport sector project, which was $225 million. And there was a fast-track economic governance and poverty reduction credit of $300. Now, there were a total of 57 conditions that were attached to these loans, which were undisclosed. Remember that. It says that 12 out of the 57 loan conditions that were included in the Letter of Development Policy bordered on the energy and extractive sectors. And it specifically says that extractive sectors such as the gas, mining, gold, forests, and oils were supposed to be touched by these conditions. And that it touches on how those resources should be managed, how much government should tax. It deals with the implementation of the gas and oil and gas fiscal regime and the requirement to adjust the taxation of all of these things.
Yes, so make the point for me. And then.
As to how many people we are even able to employ in our public sector is determined by these conditionalities. Who owns our mineral resources and even how much you're able to tax on those mineral resources are determined by these conditions in the loans. As it stands, what it means is Ghana is not independent because our monetary and fiscal policies are not determined by Ghanaians. It comes from outside. We do not own, Doctor made a comment concerning our gold. Says we produce gold, the second largest producer. No, that was incorrect. Ghana is currently producing 117.6 tons of gold a year. South Africa is only producing 100 tons, which means Ghana is the #1 producer of gold in the entire African continent.
Right. All right.
Oh, so short?
Finally, my time is up.
Yes, to wrap up, yes.
Let me
but these are conditions that we have to be very familiar with. The conditions that come with the loans we take. So yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Who compelled us to go and take those loans? So that these conditions are. Who compelled us?
No, it was not by compulsion. Yes.
So we don't blame. The institution.
What I'll do with you?
You don't blame them.
I'm actually not blaming no one. I'm just stating the fact.
Blaming the institution.
What I'll do with you?
I didn't blame no one.
That's what you are doing.
What I'll do with you is to have a bottom line with you. So Winston would look at that. Would have a show with you to go into the details.
Anytime. Yes, sir. Right. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for your time. I am to give 30 seconds to each of you. 30 seconds, then Chairman can close us. 30 seconds. Beginning with Dr. Kwachi.
30 seconds. So
before they cut us off.
The solutions.
Yes, 30 seconds.
Well, we have said leadership is an issue. Structural transformation. ownership of our natural resources. I'm just recounting. A fiscal and monetary discipline. And the people have said the forest market should also be managed.
Right. Mr. Jackson, 30 seconds.
Well, listen, if the issues of confidence, don't demonize the forex bureaus.
Right.
Don't demonize the holding of currency. The forex bureaus only control 2% of the flows. Right? Let's stop demonizing and going after scapegoats. Let's fix the problem, which is now at this moment primarily our fiscal behavior, the way we spend and the money we make.
Dr. Hazel, 30 seconds.
Oil refinery and our oil. We need to begin to produce secondary products from the oil rather than importing so much of these products, which are depleting our forest reserve.
Right. Dr. Sumin, if you can hear me, I'm sure you are still online. I have only 30 seconds for you to give me your final remarks.
No problem. I'm a man of few words. I think that, we just need to have a change of mentality. Foreign money and foreign goods and services can do so much for us. We have to look within. At some point, we have to look within and then understand the risk and cut our losses.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Sumin. Let me come back now to the studio and have Chairman finally close us. So, Chairman, this has been the program. Thank you very much for sitting in throughout. I would allow you, because you are the chairman, maybe over a minute.
We started on a very good note. Our speakers have been very, very objective and very candid in their views. Earlier on, we identified the problems. In this afternoon section, we found solutions. We've talked about pegging, we've talked about trust and confidence, where government needs to show by leading by example, cutting the size of government. We talked about efficiency in generating revenue, modernizing agriculture, industrialization, watching how easily it is to get our currency. But it all boils down to one very, very important point, which everyone mentioned: the political will, the leadership. I think this is crucial for us. So today we're making a big call to our politicians that we know our problems, we know our challenges. We're expecting them to take the will and answer the problems for us. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll come back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So, of course, that's appropriate. So whilst we acknowledge Chairman, kindly help me acknowledge Zoe to give us the vote of thanks, please. And then she'll be followed by Winston with a closing prayer.
It is a singular honor for me to be here today to give the vote of thanks. And I'd like to say a very big thank you to everyone for making this program a success. To our chairman, Sam Anka, we know you have the expertise for making this program successful. To our guest from Dr. Hazel, to Dr. Ejapoma, to Dogat, to everyone who made it, we say a very big thank you. And to the management of Ignite Media, from Dr. Randy Abe, our board chair, to our senior news editor, Bright Nana Amfo, to Samuel Uwenchi. We say a very big thank you for making it, for being part of this maiden edition of the Economic Dialogue Series 2022. We say thank you and God bless you.
Right, thank you very much, Zoe. So she's done the entire work for me, but on my behalf and on the, let me say a very big thank you to the crew, Metro TV crew, who made sure that this is happening. Those in the control room, those in the newsroom that put together all the research papers, everybody, we say a special thank you to you all. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for watching from wherever you are, those on DSTV, those on Zoom, those on Facebook, and to everyone else that joined in. Next quarter, we'll be in with the next topic. My name is Kwesi Afriye. Good afternoon.
8 years to the deadline for the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals target for sanitation. Progress made, but a lot more yet to be achieved.
I cannot, deceive myself to say that it is all well with us in this municipality. We have serious challenge.
We have broken down boreholes and the pipes are not flowing. No, you see them standing. Solid waste and liquid waste management is also a very big problem to us.
Across all 261 districts of the country, the push is on to reach the target.
Almost every community in Asokore Mampo has a dumping site. There is a compost site being